Hey everyone, welcome to our live training, How to Land a Remote Job in 2021. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm actually the founder of Work It Daily and one of your co-presenters today. A couple of housekeeping things I want to hit right out of the gate. If you haven't already, please download the workbook. It will be your friend in this session today. Secondly, if you have to bounce early, it's okay. You have 7 days to access the recording. You're going to be able to go back and watch it. We're going to send it to you via email. And we'll remind you over the 7 days so that you make sure you take advantage, all right? Third thing I want you to know, shut it down. My phone's off. I want your phone off. I want every tab on your computer shut down. I need you to sit back and listen and engage with your peers in conversation. This is how we maximize live event learning, all right? That's the most important thing you can do today. And then number 4, please keep an open mind and enjoy the process. You should take right now, you should reach out, everybody reach out. Reach over like this and pat yourself on the back. The fact that you invested $5 today and 2.5 hours of your time shows that you are somebody that understands if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. You've got to put a little time and energy into learning and growing. Guess what? There's not 8 million people on this session, and that's because a lot of people, frankly, are too lazy or just want shortcuts. But you know better, so you should really revel in that today and know that you are doing something different than a lot of other people, which, by the way, is going to give you the competitive advantage you need to land one of these coveted remote jobs, all right? Awesome. Okay, so a little bit about me if you don't know me. I've been in this industry, career coaching. This marks my 20th year. I left corporate America in 2001. I was in the staffing and recruiting and HR industry. I left because I was really tired of seeing people make some pretty critical mistakes. In that world, we come across a lot of talent. And when they make mistakes, there's really nothing we can do because our job is to place the people that win, that get it right. But it pained me to watch people not know how to navigate their careers, really mess up in interviews and all these other things. So I decided to become a career coach, and fast forward to today. And my mission over 20 years has been, how do I scale that? How do I give people the information they need that they didn't learn in school? And a lot of times most people can't afford these big, expensive career coaches that want to charge you thousands of dollars a year to work with them. So that's what we are at Work It Daily. And that's how we're able to come to you and present these amazing live trainings through technology. And I'm going to tell you that when you stay to the end of today's session, we're going to reward you all with some amazing, amazing access to our platform. So please, please stay tuned because it's going to get you pretty excited. All right. So that's a little bit about me. Enough chatting though. I'm going to pass it over to my partner in crime. She is the director of coaching at Work It Daily, Ariella. Hello, my friend.
Hello. All right, everyone. Well, yes, so my name is Arielle Coombs. I am the director of career support here at Work It Daily, and I've been working with JT for about 9 years now. Actually, next month marks 9 years. So yes, I've been here a while, and I actually came in doing writing and marketing for Work It Daily, which was then called Careerism. But I quickly realized my fascination with career development and job search strategy. And so I came to JT and I said, can you train me? Can you train me how to be a coach, how to teach these strategies to people who are looking for opportunities? Because this is something that I was never really taught and a lot of other people haven't really been taught. And so after years of training and firsthand experiences, I was able to start really working with clients and helping them with their career development and job search strategies. And I realized that process, how much the marketing actually plays into the job search strategy when you're marketing yourself for opportunities. And so the marketing and the career coaching has been really helpful in terms of helping clients and helping members at Work It Daily in order to market them for opportunities like this, like remote opportunities, which are going to be very competitive. So you need to have a good marketing strategy for yourself. So very excited for today's session. We've got a lot of great techniques and things that you should be thinking about for your search. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Ariella said it best. You need marketing strategies because something you'll hear from us a lot is that you are a business of one. You're not an employee because employees are held hostage by golden handcuffs. They think they have no say. They think they have no control. I want you to toss that mindset. And the new mindset you need to adopt is I am a business of one. I am a service provider and I want to partner and have a win-win partnership with my customer, AKA the employer, especially with remote opportunities, because think about it. You're on your own in remote. And I think that's what's so attractive about this to everyone. We've just come off of a pandemic and an economic crisis, but in that time, massive amounts of disruption. A lot of people were forced to work from home and said, well, wait a minute. this works for me. I've got better work-life balance. I love the flexibility. I want to work from home full time. In fact, a study by Gallup shows that 56% of people want to work from home, either part-time or full-time. Now, here's the good news. There are more remote opportunities than there have ever been before. This pandemic forced so many key people to go remote, so many companies to go remote. And a lot of them said, what are we holding on to big buildings for? And why do we need all this real estate when we can let people work from home? They seem to enjoy it. Also, they started to go, gee, I used to be limited to the talent in my local area who could commute to me. But now you're telling me I can hire people all over the country, maybe even all over the world, and I can get the best talent for my company. This is what's being talked about in HR and recruiting, about this ability to diversify our talent pools and really get the best talent. That's exciting. That's why there are so many opportunities. Here's the downside, though. Many of these companies have never had a formal remote working policy in place. They've never recruited for that before. They've never trained for that or onboarded people. So maybe during the pandemic, they got a little idea of how to do that, but a lot of them right now are just trying to wrap their head around that. So that's why, if you followed us, we were saying you're not going to see a lot of those jobs publicly posted in the traditional places. Yet so many companies are talking about remote work. You need to know how to tap into that. And that's what we're going to get into today. So here's the breakdown. We've got a presentation for you. We're going to spend an hour together. Then we're going to give you a quick break because we know you need to stretch. Then we're going to come back and finish it off. In this first section, we're going to talk a lot about the things you need to understand big picture. We'll take some questions. And then when we come back, we're going to get into the tactics, the step-by-step things you need to be doing in order to find and land that remote job. Does that sound good to everyone? Awesome. Then let's get this party started. Let's get this presentation going. So, first thing that I want you to know, and I'll put my glasses on for this one. Here we go. Is that we're going to talk about in this session why looking for a remote job is different than an in-office job, because they're different, folks. And if you follow us, you know we teach something called a proactive job search strategy. It is not taught in school. Most people are taught a reactive job search strategy, like going to a job board and just applying to whatever's there and filling out applications and wasting hours online and never hearing back and then getting completely depressed because you think something's wrong with you, right? That is a reactive strategy. Proactive strategy is when you take control of the process and you navigate it to get what you want. So we're going to talk about the proactive process you do when you're looking for remote work. Here's the first thing I need you to understand, and do not be frightened by this. Many of these jobs start as temporary or contract. Remember, I came from the staffing industry, and I remember many years ago when the CEO of the company that I was a vice president at the time had us in a retreat. And he said, in 20 years, over half the workforce is going to be, temporary or flexible workforce. And I remember, this is in the 90s, going, I actually get that. I think that makes sense, because I knew I didn't want to stay at a company 50 years. I wanted that mobility. Fast forward to today, and his prediction was dead on. But what that means is most companies start you out as a temporary worker or a 1099, a contract worker, because they have to make sure that you're a fit before they invest in all the full-time benefits, administrative costs, and things that come with that. So some of you are going, oh, no, I can only get a job if I get the benefits. Hang on. You still want to look at these temporary contract positions, because what can happen is they can say, we'll take you temporary for 90 days. And when we know you're the right fit in 90 days, we'll bring you on full time. Doesn't that sound fantastic? I think that's worth it to get the job of your dreams working from home. So a lot of these jobs will start with the agencies. And I would tell you to go find one or two really reputable agencies in your area, staffing companies, and check them out. You don't want to register with all of them, but you want to check out one or two, because they'll tend to corner the market on those remote opportunities with the companies that are headquartered in their area. So make sure you're thinking about that, and then you're not just dissing these temporary or contract roles, because they don't stay that way forever. Okay, Ariella, I'm going to hand the next one to you.
Yeah, so when you're looking for remote opportunities, it's important to know that while some companies will post their remote jobs on job boards, on their website, not all of them will, because they know that they're going to get a lot of applications very quickly. And so with this whole demand for the remote workforce, the more remote opportunities, a lot more people are going to be looking for them and applying for them. So the second they turn it on, especially if it's a bigger company, they're going to be completely inundated with a lot of qualified candidates, but also a lot of unqualified candidates. So for the recruiting team, for the hiring team, it makes it very clunky, it makes it overwhelming, and it's not super efficient for them. So they'd rather actually go out and find people that they know are going to be the right talent, they're going to have the right fit, they're going to be the right person for the job, as opposed to just opening the floodgates and posting on these job boards for these remote opportunities. So it just makes it a lot harder for them to weed out the candidates that are fit. So they're going to be more likely to rely on their employees, referrals, networking connections, and to try to find talent that way, as opposed to looking on the online job boards.
I love it. In fact, she's talking about the hidden job market. This is a beautiful example of the hidden job market that is huge right now. Companies just can't handle the amount of applicants they get when they turn it on. It's so, so true. Which leads, and Ariella alluded to that, to the third thing you need to understand. Getting referred helps you gain their trust. So when you get referred into a job, essentially what that's saying is somebody at the company isn't necessarily 100% vouching for you, but via connection, you must have some commonalities, so they're going to pay attention. A lot of companies right now are trying to focus on retention. I don't know if you saw TikTok I did earlier this week, but I talked about the turnover tsunami that's happening right now. Companies are very worried now that the pandemic's over that everyone's just going to want a new job for the sake of just having a new job and getting out of the situation they were in. When there's turnover, it cripples a company. They say that it costs about 130 to 140% of somebody's salary to replace them at a company. So what does that mean? Let's just say that you made, $100,000 a year. That'd be amazing, right? Well, when you leave, it costs the company $130,000 to $140,000 to find your replacement, get them trained, and get them in place. This is crippling to companies. They're very worried about it. So here's what they do. They start to incentivize their current people to stay. And one of the ways they do that is they give them bonuses for referring people into new positions. So you're going to start to hear about people getting $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 bonuses for referring someone in. What that means to you is that when you know how to strategically network and get introduced to people that work at the companies that you'd like to work at for remote jobs, they're going to be more willing to pass your name on because they might get compensated for it. And this is something that's happening every single day that a lot of people don't know about. So you're going to want to learn how, and we're going to teach in a little bit, to build up that network and make those connections so that those individuals are willing to refer you in. Now, Ariella, talk about the hiring process having more steps because of the remote option.
Yes. So obviously, a lot of cases, you're not going to be able to actually meet the hiring team or the employees in person since it's a remote opportunity. And so that means you have to do a lot more work in order to prove to them that you're going to be the candidate they need. You're going to be the employee of their dreams, essentially. And so they also know that they need to do a little bit more legwork to make sure that they find that candidate. And like JT said earlier, they're still trying to figure this process out. So it can be a little bit clunky. Maybe there's a few more steps, but you might have a few more interviews than normal. You obviously are going to have, virtual interviews. You might have to do some assignments, some assessments. And so it's going to be a little bit more in depth than your quote unquote regular hiring process for remote opportunities. They just want to make sure that they're really finding and investing in the right candidate. And where they're so far away in some cases, that can be challenging. So they're going to add a few more kind of checkpoints.
Most definitely. So be patient, folks, with them. Be patient. And as Ariella mentioned, I can validate this. You're much more likely to have to do some kind of assessment or assignment in order to get the job. So what do I mean by that? They're actually going to want you to do some kind of mini project or task. And they want to see how you do that remotely, how you communicate, how quickly it takes you to do it. Don't be offended by that. Don't get defensive and say you should pay me for that. How else are they going to know that you can work remotely? So be ready for these and really dive into them with passion, because for every one person that does it, there's somebody else that has an attitude about it and they don't get the remote opportunity. All right, Ariella, let's talk about virtual interviewing, one of your favorites.
Yes. So obviously remote jobs, you're probably going to have to do the virtual interviewing. And so a lot of people had to kind of get used to this whole virtual interview setup, meetings, all that in the past year. So that can be that's a little bit of a comfort there, but, you might have to do something called a one-way interview, where it's essentially they give you questions and you have to record yourself on camera and answer those questions. That might not be so comfortable for you if you haven't done it before. So it's important to understand what that interview process is going to look like. If you can get some information around that, is it a Zoom conversation with a real person? Is it a one-way interview? Is it going to be a combination if there are more steps? But also just getting familiar with the different types of virtual interviews and how to handle them is going to be important. But the biggest thing that you need to do here is to make sure that you have a clean office setup, professional looking background, no junk in the background. Make sure that your audio is good, your lighting is good, and that you know how to use the software, because that a lot of times can be the big downfall in these interviews. If you can't get on, if they can't hear you, if your recording doesn't work, if they can't see you. So it's really important to be very familiar and comfortable with doing these virtual types of presentations and interviews before you go in, because that's going to be a make or break here.
Yeah. And I just want to tell you, I do a lot of work with executives, and HR folk have been telling me that the single biggest thing that's happened to them during the pandemic is they've realized how bad their own executives are on camera. A lot of executives are just bombing it on camera, and it matters. Your presence and how you come across, it matters. And if you're going to do a remote job, you want to be good on camera, because that's how you're going to be with your teammates. So you've got to do the kind of practicing. It's not rocket science or brain surgery, but you definitely got to do the work. All right, so those were the 6 things we wanted you to understand that were the true differences. Now let's talk big picture about standing out, because this is what it's all about. Standing out and looking so much more attractive to them than all the other candidates. And let me just tell you why that's worth it. If I'm trying to find somebody for a remote job and I'm interviewing all these different people, and one person just every step of the way has it together, is saying the right things, is communicating the right way, is just delivering, I want them so badly, so that when it gets to the time to make them the offer, if they say, oh, I'd love your job, but I'm wondering if you could come up a little in price, meaning can you come up a little and pay me more? I don't want to lose out on my first pick, because I've seen the rest of the talent out there. Think about when you go shopping, right? If you've ever gone shopping, let's say you were shopping for a TV, finally find the one you love with, and they're like, oh, this one's out of stock, but you can have your second favorite. And you're like, I don't want that one. I want my first. How am I going to get that one? They're like, oh, well, it's a $200 extra fee to get it delivered. At that point, you're like, yep, I love it. I'm going to do it. Same thing in hiring. So the stronger we can make you through this process, you sit in the driver's seat when they pick you, because they want you so badly. And trust me, with some minor tweaks, that's actually not hard to do, because most people don't know how to do this. What did I say? You came here today to learn. There's not 8 million people on here. So this is how you build your competitive advantage. So let's talk about that a little bit. So first of all, you need to be highly self-motivated. You need to absolutely prove to them that you are somebody that can get yourself out of bed, log on consistently, make a list of tasks, and get it done on time, that you're not easily distracted. This is what employers are most worried about, and there's some companies that are literally, setting up software that tracks when you log on and when you log off, that kind of thing. Not all companies feel that necessary. For example, our company went remote in the pandemic and we gave up our office space. We are one of these companies that said we work just fine remotely, but I don't need to track our staff. I know they're getting it done, and they're amazing at what they're doing. They've all figured out their patterns and they're succeeding. But they've all proven to me that they're highly self-motivated. They've taken initiative, they've communicated effectively. I know in their results that they're getting it done. So you're going to have to do that as well in the interview process in order to earn that trust. What about this one, Ariella?
Yes. So conveying a connection with the organization is going to be key in terms of standing out, but it's also going to help reinforce that fact that you want to be there and you're going to do whatever it takes in order to keep your spot. And so that way they're going to gain more trust in you to get the job done. So with all this competition, this is essential, but it also is important for you because you want to make sure that you're going to an organization that you feel in alignment with and that you want to be dedicated to and loyal to and actually contribute at a high level to. And so explaining this connection, showing them that, this is a place that you want to work for, you're going to be proud to represent, that you have a connection in some way, shape, or form is going to be a big game changer in terms of standing out, but also proving that dedication and gaining that trust with that employer. This is going to be huge. when it comes to essentially proving that fact.
Yeah, and in the second section, we're going to talk about how you leverage this idea of passion and connection in order to target the types of companies you want to do remote work for. So really keep this in mind, folks, because it's a game changer. Up until now, most people have, again, done reactive job search. So they go to the job boards and they see what jobs they think that they can do, and they're not even that excited about those companies, but they apply because they think they're a fit. And then they don't even get called. And then you're really hurt because you're like, I wasn't even into that company, but they're not into me. That is such a dysfunctional way to look for work. You should absolutely have a passion and a connection for the company that you want to work for. So we'll talk more about that. Next one, have a strong home office setup. So Ariella talked about the video production. You need to put a little work into this, folks. It's not overly expensive to have a solid camera. You need to have a good, area that's neutral. You need to have a lot of light on you. Please don't look like you're in the Bat Cave. You don't want to do that. That's bad. Try to avoid having things like your bed behind you and other things that are distracting. You really just want neutral, professional. Even if you have to put a sheet up, that's still better. Or if you know how to use a green screen, very, very important. But I'll tell you the one thing that makes all the difference, and you won't believe me, but it does. It's the audio quality. Study after study shows that we can look at somebody that's fuzzy or grainy, but if their audio quality is poor, it doesn't hold our attention. So when I say, if you can save your pennies and buy a good microphone, again, on Amazon, I'm not talking hundreds of dollars, maybe $20, $30, but you buy a microphone that has that clear audio in stereo surround sound, you actually will do better in interviews because it's soothing to the person's ears. So I know that sounds crazy, but if you were to invest just a little bit in better audio, it can go a long way. But the whole office setup is pretty important for sure. Ariella, you're up.
All right. So quantifying your accomplishments is going to be a huge piece of marketing yourself for these remote opportunities, because employers need to know that you know how to get it done and you can get results. So you can't just tell them that you can do something. You can't just, promise that things are going to get done. You actually have to show them with past results. So making sure that you're demonstrating with examples and numbers to show them that, for example, you conducted 50 sales calls per day, or you increased your TikTok audience from 200 to 300,000 in 6 months. Whatever that looks like, that shows them that you know what you're doing, you have the skills, and you've gotten results, and you know how to deliver. And when you're not working in the same office, this is especially important because they need to have confidence in you that, one, you know what you're doing, but also you're going to get it done and you're going to get results. And so quantifying that productivity and that success that you have is going to be essential. And if you have remote experience, work from home experience, you're going to want to showcase those examples as well, because they're going to want to know that you can do this all from home. So that's a bonus if you have that experience, but definitely add those numbers, show them past results to give them confidence in you as a candidate.
Yeah, most definitely. Great stuff. All right, next one. You're an excellent communicator via email, via chat, and via video conferencing. So folks, you need to show that you can convey that you don't set people off, that you don't say the wrong thing, that you don't over emoji, right? You have to really prove through your communications with them that you're professional and that you're articulate. And by that, I mean the right balance. Too little is not good. Too much is not good. Just right. So knowing what to send and how to send it, when to send the email, what to say in the chat, how to answer questions in the interview, all of that is going to help them to decide whether or not you would be a good coworker to communicate with. So this entire hiring process, your communication skills are being evaluated from the moment you respond to their outreach to the moment you're on that first interview, your thank you follow-ups, any materials they ask, they are evaluating. You want to put extra time and care into every interaction in order to nail it, because I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. All right. So, all right, there's the overview. Now we've talked about what's different about remote job search and finding a remote job. We've talked about the ways that you're going to stand out. Again, we're going to walk you through this tactics and a really cool 4-step method in the second section. But we're going to stop here right now and take questions because I see there's a lot of them. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been doing the questions correctly. This is one thing I forgot to mention in the chat. It helps us if you put question in all caps, then your question after that, not in all caps, only so the team can pick those out and we can answer them for you. So we're going to go over there and we're going to start. Ariel, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, we're going to start with Casey. Casey says, what about restaurant servers? Can we market ourselves for remote work? I only have restaurant experience.
Yes, great question. So I think a big thing that you're going to want to do here is look at your transferable skill sets, right? So as a restaurant server, you actually have a lot more transferable skills than you think, especially when it comes to dealing with customers, dealing with pressure, making sure you get the job done. Just really evaluate what those skills look like and lean on them. You want to lean on your strengths. You want to lean on your skills that are relevant to those opportunities. The other thing is you're going to want to focus on your networking into these organizations. For this particular opportunity, let's say it's a remote job at one of your top companies, you're going to want to connect with people within that organization so they can understand you're dedicated, you can make this happen, you have the right skill sets, you have the right attitude, and they're going to want to, help you out. Now, the final thing I would say is definitely, if you can, if there's a skills gap in some way, shape, or form, whether it's, learning how to use remote tools, understanding how to do that, you're going to want to go and do that so you can prove to them you know how to work the tools, the collaboration tools. You know how to communicate, you know how to collaborate. That's going to be huge in terms of marketing yourself and standing out and getting the edge over other candidates. So that's what I would recommend. JT, any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That's exactly it. I mean, you would deal with multiple people per day, right? Multiple transactions today. There are things that you do as a restaurant worker. There's math that you do. There's just so much that's transferable, and you just need to walk through that process. And the good news is we're going to talk about that in the second section, some tools that you can access to start to figure out what your transferable skills are. All right, question from David. Since getting a remote job will be competing now worldwide rather than a 30-mile radius, would it make it competitive to the point of being almost impossible? Actually, no, David, and I'll tell you why. I was on a call with a bunch of executives yesterday, and we were talking about this process of remote work. What's happening, though, is they still have to pay attention to time zones. So you need to be able to work within the time zone of your manager and your team. So it blows up more than a 30-mile radius, 120-mile radius, even 1,000-mile radius, right? So now somebody in Florida can work for a company in New York and be in the same time zone. Where it gets tricky is where the time zones are too large. And that leads me into the second question that Larissa asked. Can you talk about landing a remote job as an international? The biggest thing I can tell internationals is they need to look at the time zone of the companies that they're applying to and make sure you can work within those hours, because you might be applying for a job where the working hours would be 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. your time wherever you are. If that works for you, fine. But if not, then it's not going to be possible. So there are limitations to the dropping the boundaries. And I'm glad you asked that question, David and Larissa. The reality is they're still going to look for people that are in their time zone or maybe an hour off from the time zone. Once you start to get, 3 or more hours off the time zone, they start to get a little concerned. So there you go. All right, Ariella, PJ wants to know, what do we need to do to go to agencies in our area if we're looking for remote work, or why do we need to go to agencies? That's a good question.
Yes, great question. So we'd recommend this because if it's in your area, it's accessible. You can go, you can talk to them, you can have conversations, you can really prove what you're about and what you're looking for, and they can be on your side in terms of looking for those opportunities. If you try to go with too many places or they're too far away, it just makes that a little bit more inaccessible and it makes it harder for them to help you. So that's why we would recommend this in this case.
Yeah, and let me just tag on to that most of these agencies, especially for office work, will have you come in or do assessment tests where they evaluate all the skill sets that are necessary to do the job. Then what happens is they go to the employer and say, I already tested PJ and I know PJ that can do these skills, so just hire PJ. That's why you use an agency. Agencies are like your talent agent. They represent you. And so for anyone that would like companies representing them to get some of these opportunities, that's also why you would go with an agency. Brian says, temporary job. What happens if you take the job and they don't extend you after 90 days? This is my fear of contract work. So first of all, Brian, the moment you get the contract, keep looking for a job. You know that it could end in 90 days, but let me tell you what usually happens. One, if you crush it in those 90 days, the hiring agency, if you work for an agency, is going to want to redeploy you because you're now a proven product. You're a proven service, I should say. You were successful at that role, so they want to redeploy you fast, as opposed to trying to train or bring somebody new in. So I would not get hung up on that. Also, the moment you get a remote job, even if it's contract or temporary, you're going to get it on your LinkedIn profile and your resume, and you're going to keep applying because now you can say, I'm a remote worker. and any of those hiring managers looking for remote know that you landed a job as remote. Somebody already trusted you to do remote, and then getting remote gets easier. So still worth it to take the temporary job, even if it doesn't last forever. All right, Ariella, Anthony wants to know, is an outside territory sales position considered remote?
Yes. So in this case, it's going to be a lot more travel than, being in the office. So it's more of like a field worker type of situation. So if you're thinking about marketing yourself for this position, if you're, worried about collaboration, communication, they're also worried about that. They want to make sure that you can connect with the people at the organization, communicate when you need to, be in touch, allow them to get in touch with you when you need to. So those are some of those trends are still going to be, kind of used in this case when you are marketing yourself for this type of position. Absolutely, because you're not going to be in the office a lot of the time. And so you're going to want to be thinking about that in your strategy.
Definitely. All right. LH has a great question. How do you get, and this is on all caps, by the way, so I feel like LH is yelling this at me. How do you get referrals if your connection is net zero? Guess what? You're not alone. And the good news is we're going to talk about that in the next section, because there is a way for you to reach out to complete strangers at companies and connect with them and have a valid reason for connecting with them. Like I said, they don't have to be your bestie. Studies over at LinkedIn showed that a lot of people get jobs through what we call weak ties, meaning they just connected with somebody on LinkedIn and that person referred them in to get a job. The reason for that is that they're like, I have nothing to lose by referring this person. And oh, by the way, I might make some money by referring them. So how do you do that? We're going to walk you through that later. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, another David asking, with temp jobs, companies don't offer health insurance. Private health insurance is impossibly expensive to the point of erasing most of your salary. What do you do? So, David, that is for some temp companies. Here's the deal. Like I said, the jobs are temporary or contract to start. And if you've never done remote work before, it may be worth it for you to take that company, that temp job, or that contract job for a while. You're right. They don't maybe offer the best health insurance in the world, but hopefully you have COBRA from your previous experience. If not, you're shopping and getting yourself the best independent insurance out there. Just keep in mind, we're talking about a trade-off here. If you want to get to remote work, you're going to have to start somewhere. So why not take that temporary contract role, but all the while you're using it in order to get that full-time gig with the insurance. All right. So you got to play the bigger game here. You can't just write it off and say that they're no good, when in reality, it could give you the edge that you need to get that full-time job. All right. Aaron wants to know, Ariella, since several remote jobs I've seen require in-person interviews, which makes it nearly impossible to apply. Thoughts?
Yeah, so this is obviously challenging because it's a remote opportunity. You're thinking you can just do the remote interviewing. However, some companies do want to actually meet you, and they want to make sure that they can trust you and they know that you can get the job done and you click with the team in person. And so that's understandable from their standpoint. However, it does make it challenging for you as the candidate. And so, if this is an opportunity that you really want, if you want to get your foot in the door at this organization, if this is the ideal job for you, you have to weigh that and say, do I invest in traveling? Because a lot of companies don't necessarily pay for travel anymore for interviews, especially in this competitive environment. So it really comes down to what you're looking for, if this is really an opportunity that you want to be pursuing, and how much you actually want to invest in potentially getting this opportunity. You can also ask if there are any possibilities to do virtual interviews just based on the location, but it's something that you want to consider if they have a lot of applicants. If people are willing to go there, that's an edge that they have over you as a candidate. JT, any other thoughts?
Yeah, just ironically, I coached somebody who was going through this recently. And what she did is she said to them, I'm really interested in your job. I was wondering if we can virtual interview first. I see that you want me to come in person. I was thinking that if I get through your first rounds of interviews and you really think that I could be a potential candidate for you, I would be comfortable splitting the cost of travel to get there. But I just want, I wouldn't want to waste your time, and I just can't afford the expense of just doing this for the very first interview. They had no problem with that. They took her all the way through to the final interview. And when it came time to meet her in person, they actually footed the bill, because at that point they were like, we're really interested in you. We want to pay for you to come and meet us. So don't rule it out. Just take the virtual interview, and, you can say to them, I'm really interested. In person's tough. Can we push this down the line? And if you're really interested in me, talk about it then. I think you'll see great results. like I said, and Ariel and I keep mentioning this, so many of these companies haven't wrapped their head around it yet that I still need to meet them in person thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get over that soon enough. So don't make that a deal breaker. Get into the interview process, all right? And they'll figure it out. They'll trust you. All right. Tanya says, what if your home office spot is not ideal for virtual interviewing? I'm going to be honest, Tanya, you got to get your game on. You've got to build the perfect virtual interviewing location. Do not mess around with this. Figure it out because it's worth money to you. Like I said earlier, the more you stand out, the more professional this all looks, and they know that you put time and energy into it, the higher it goes, the more they want you. So it is worth your time and energy to figure that out. All right. Mary wants to know, what's the quality of the microphone equipment? I'm just going to show mine. I use something fancy. It was a gift. I'm not going to lie. It's called the Yeti. And, but you can get these, you can get these used and get them on sale, and it gives you that awesome stereo sound. What do you use?
I actually just got mine. It's like $20 off of Amazon. They have some great microphones on there for they're very inexpensive, and mine works awesome. Just to show you guys, this is what mine looks like.
Yeah.
You know, tiny, easy to like move around and use. So it's really about getting something that's not just your default computer audio, because it sometimes is echoey and it doesn't really sound that great. So just having something that's closer to you that has a little bit better of a quality can make a big difference.
Yeah. I can't even tell you. It makes a huge difference, folks. You have no idea. And speaking of that same line, Gina wants to know, do I need to suit up for a series of online interviews, and can we use a headset and earphones with a mic? So first of all, you do need to suit up. You don't need to overdo it. Like, and the rule of thumb is check the company out online, see what their attire is. Is it business attire? Is it casual? Think about the job that you'd be doing for them. How would you need to dress for the job that if you were in front of the customer or in front of your coworkers? And dress appropriately. We always say dress a little bit nicer than expected. It's a sign of respect. But definitely from here up, you want to be professionally dressed. It might not be the three-piece suit with the tie and the hanky, but you're going to be dressed nicely. As far as using a mic, that's totally fine. They're used to that people are using a mic and a headset. Just in advance, just check so that it's not really distracting on your face, that you've got everything in place. But ideally, if you can invest the $20 in a mic so that you don't have to have the headset, that can be a great option because it's just less distracting. But I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker by any stretch. Okay, Christopher wants to know, Ariella, regarding Zoom calls, virtual background okay? Professional, of course.
Yes. So I would be picky with your virtual background. If you're going to use one, you're definitely going to want to have a sheet or a green screen or something in the background. So that way it's even when you're turning it on. Sometimes it can be a little wonky when you move otherwise, or just uneven in the background if you don't have a sheet or something. But you also want to choose something that's not super distracting. I love the ones that have the like blurred out office in the background, very professional, not distracting. While I think it's hilarious, the sitting on the beach with the palm trees waving, or if you're in outer space, I would not recommend those types of virtual backgrounds, because while they can be a fun talking point, they are a little bit, they aren't super professional and they can be distracting. So when in doubt, go simple when it comes to your virtual backgrounds.
Yeah, can I just add in one thing too? Please make sure that you test drive the outfit that you're wearing, because I was on a Zoom call recently with somebody using the background and they didn't look in advance what their shirt was doing. And pieces of the shirt were going into the backdrop, and it was so distracting. Like the person was like patchwork, and it was just so distracting. So please test drive your outfits against a virtual backdrop. All right. Erin has a great question. I worry that when my resume shows I'm a stay-at-home mom, they will instantly think my kids will be a distraction. Should I address it? So first of all, I guess my concern, Erin, is I personally don't want you stating that you're a stay-at-home mom for a remote job on your resume. Your resume is going to be for the actual professional work. I understand that there's going to be a gap on your resume that gets addressed differently. And we talk a lot about that in our resume tutorials inside our platform, especially for moms that are going back to the workforce. The real way, you're not going to bring delight to that. You're just going to put on your last experience and build a resume that showcases your transferable skills. What you are going to do is play up your passion and interest and connection to the employer. Storytelling is a stay-at-home mom or a returning to the workforce person's best friend. It's how you get them excited about you so that when they look at the resume and they go, oh, they haven't been working for a while, they're still so jazzed about the story that you told that they still want to talk to you. And that's how you're able to get them to have that conversation. Now, when they have that conversation, we got to make sure there's no distraction. There cannot be, what I would do is, don't have the finger painting pictures from your kids. Think about where you are, show them professionalism. They shouldn't even realize that that is going on during the interview process, because as you're pointing out, whatever they see in that process, they're going to multiply it by 10 and assume that's how it'll be in the real world. So you're wise to be careful of that and to make sure that that's just not even coming up, if that makes sense. And again, you'll learn more tactics in the next session that'll help you wrap your head around that. All right, Ariella, you love this one. Sarah says, any advice for quantifying skills for a former teacher moving into a more corporate setting?
Yes, so absolutely. So first off, what I would do, Sarah, is to write out all of your tasks and responsibilities as a former teacher, right? So write them all out. And then this is actually JT's trick, is to go through and look at all the nouns, circle them, and then add numbers to them. So for example, taught kids in a classroom setting. How many kids did you teach? How many papers did you grade each week, each month, whatever your process is? So start looking that way and then backtrack and think about how those things translate into hard skills that can translate into a corporate setting. So obviously, if you're teaching, that can be training and development. That can be, mentoring. That can be coaching. So really work backward once you quantify those and see how they can translate into that corporate kind of speak or those corporate skills on your resume, because you do have a lot more transferable skills than you think. And we actually have a wonderful transferable skills table that I'm not sure if we're showing today, but I think we can probably,
it's in our platform.
Awesome.
There's
Yes.
a course that Ariella built that teaches people how to do this exact process and use a table to figure out your top transferable skills. It's amazing. And we'll share more with you how you can, join us and get access to that table, because it's just awesome. But I want to add on to that. We've had an incredible amount of teachers join Work It Daily because, teaching's been stressful and it's time for them, a lot of them, to just have a different career. I understand that and respect that. I just want to say there's so many skill sets. I have seen teachers, project management, sales, think about it, presenting, public speaking. It's endless, the amount of transferable skills you have. So please know that. You just need to know how to pull them out of you and then go and start to present those to employers. And by the way, folks, we're currently talking about teachers, but every single one of you here, you're going to hear later, this idea of pulling your transferable skills, whether you're a restaurant worker, you worked in events, whatever you were in, you have got to pull the transferable skills, and it can be done. We have yet to find somebody that we can't pull transferable skills for. You just need to know how to do it. All right. Crystal wants to know, how can you navigate having a remote position as a second job to supplement your income from your current job? Are there part-time opportunities? Ooh, Ariella?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you have the opportunity, if you have the time, you can certainly, do this. And especially there are going to be part-time opportunities. Like we said, a lot of temporary and contract opportunities that give you some flexibility there. My only thing, and I think JT, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would probably check, especially if it's in the same industry, with your employer to make sure that there's nothing there. But most cases, it's totally fine. And, you don't necessarily need to worry about it. But absolutely, there are going to be opportunities out there. So why not?
Again, in the same way they're contract and temporary, there's plenty of part-time too that will turn full-time. So you should absolutely put your toe in the water with it. But to Ariella's point, please make sure that there's not anything in your current contract wording about moonlighting. That's what it's referred to. So you want to make sure. Melissa says, I currently work from home with an employer I've been with nearly 2 years. We went home due to the pandemic. How do I implement that experience in the interview? Oh my gosh. So Melissa, you have like the dream situation. I'm not going to lie. Because when we talk about quantifying, you can say, for 22 months, I've worked remotely. I've worked X hours a week. In that time, I've completed X number of projects. Those projects have ranged in size from this to this. I've completed X number of transactions. I don't know what you do, but this is what we mean about quantifying your experience. Because if I'm on the receiving end of that, did you hear those numbers? Numbers are the most memorable thing to a recruiter, folks. And the human eye reads numbers faster and remembers them better, which is why we are always pushing you to quantify yourself, because that quantification right there tells me, oh, she knows what she's doing. And everyone can do it. There's not a single person that can't quantify themselves. I've had people throw all sorts of stuff at me and I can quantify you. So you just need to do that in order to make that impression. All right, Ariella, Kathy wants to know, if it's okay, I'll answer this one. The best national staffing organizations in your opinion. So here's the deal. we can't make that recommendation for you because it depends on where you are. There are a lot of national organizations, but some are stronger than others depending on your location. My advice is that you log on and look at them in your local area and just kind of check out. I'd also ask around if you're okay with posting that in social media, asking people about it. But the other thing to do is to just pick 3 or 4 that have, good Glassdoor ratings, good Comparably ratings. Comparably is a hot new site that's even more in depth than Glassdoor. Please go over there and check them out over there. And then based on that, reach out to them. And not all of them will probably respond to you. My point is start talking to all of them. But as you get into the process, you only want to work with 1 or 2 of them, because if they know that you're registered at 5 or 6, they won't bother to pitch you, because they're afraid everyone's pitching you. So you really do have to do your homework, go through the interview process, and select 1 or 2 to be represented by. Okay, Mrs. Bongard wants to know, Ariella, are you seeing remote jobs in the HR area? Tips for finding them, or is it the same as searching for a non-degree remote job?
Yes, so absolutely. I mean, more and more companies are going remote with a lot of their opportunities, especially if you don't need to be there in person. Maybe it's even a hybrid situation. But we would definitely recommend the same process. First start off with the companies you want to be working at and start targeting those and networking your way in, because that's what's going to help you not only get your foot in the door, but show people that you fit in with the culture, you're enthusiastic, you're excited, you align with the company's mission and whatever they're doing, and you're going to gain trust there. So that's what we would recommend in terms of finding those jobs, because those are definitely going to be in the hidden job market area, because not all of them are going to be posted online. So that's what I would say.
100%. I'm seeing a ton of HR. By the way, folks, today isn't just about non-degreed or degreed. We're talking about all legit remote jobs. And in the second section, we're going to tell you how to avoid a scam, by the way. Desert Meadow says, what should we look for in the local hiring staffing agencies? Any tips? Yeah. So first of all, do your homework on them online. Make sure that they're reputable. They've been around for a while. They have a good name. Check out their website. Secondly, pay close attention to the types of roles they place. Most of them are pretty niche these days. So for example, there are some companies that are what we call light industrial or labor. There are some that are clerical or office work. There are some that are accounting only or tech only. You need to go find the ones that speak to your skill set niche. And if you're somebody who's making a transition out of it, like if you're leaving out of, for example, teaching or retail or restaurant, you would go to one of the clerical or office ones, because they're going to have the most diverse set of remote opportunities, anywhere from customer service all the way through to account management. That's a big thing. A big part, by the way, folks, right now of what's going remote are jobs that involve supporting customers, supporting businesses, supporting clients, doing communication. So that whole can be done remotely. There's no need to make somebody come into an office and put a headset on. And that there's all different types of that. And I'm going to show you an example later that talks to that as well, so that you can figure out what the skill sets are. But do a deep dive on those companies and look at what they're hiring for. All right, Ariella, Patty asks, any suggestions for those changing careers when it comes to quantifying productivity and success? Oh, used to be a teacher, and I just finished an executive assistant program. So maybe just kind of reinforce or talk about the skills that would be good for executive assistant?
Yes. So that's wonderful that you've already started, or you've gone through this program, because you've already gained some knowledge and some skill sets. I would definitely go, and this applies to any job, especially if you're changing careers. Go and look at a bunch of the similar types of jobs and job descriptions, and go through and look at the skill sets that they're listing, because it's going to start sparking some, ideas and say, hey, I actually have this skill set. It's branded this way because I used to be a teacher, but it's the same thing. So I have this skill set, and it's also going to help you figure out where any gaps are. So you've already gone through this executive assistant program. It's going to give you a major boost there. But if there are any other gaps in terms of technologies or systems or anything like that, it can help you kind of boost that marketing strategy for that particular career change. But whether you're a teacher or whatever else, and you're making a career change, the best thing you can do is to go and look at the job description, figure out what they're looking for in terms of skills and responsibilities and such, and you can essentially translate that from your own experience. Because as we already talked about, teaching in particular has so many great transferable skill sets that work very well in a lot of industries. So I would start there for sure.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to show you a visual example in the second section. So stay tuned. What she just said, you're going to see firsthand. All right, Paula says, I'm in Canada. I may want to stay here and work in tech, healthcare, ideally for California, New York, or North Carolina, the Research Triangle. I have lots of opportunities, suggestions if I want to stay in Canada. So absolutely, here's the deal. First of all, be upfront that you're currently located in Canada and that you are interested in remote work. You do not, one thing I want to tell you folks is that there are jobs that are listed right now that don't say remote. Some people will say to me, should I apply even if I can't move there? Yeah, if it doesn't specifically say this is not remote, this is in person, then absolutely pursue it, just so you know. If it specifically says, hey, this is in person, this is not remote, then please don't apply. But if it didn't say that in the job description, you should apply. Now, when you get the interview and you start to have that conversation, at some point, you're going to ask some questions around, can this job be done remotely? And that's when you're going to reveal where you are. That's not the first thing you tell them, though. What you want to do is get them to kind of fall in love with you in that first interview and tell you that they want to move you to the second interview. Because at that point, they're going to be more open to the idea of you doing remote. Again, folks, this is about you impressing them and them starting to wrap their head around through their communication with you that, oh, no, I could see this person doing it remotely. So that's my advice there. Keep applying. Nail the first interview, and then as you're moving forward in the process is when you explore the remote aspect so that you both don't waste your time to the very end, but at the same time, you're opening up their mind to the idea of you doing it in Canada or wherever for that matter. All right, Ariella, Norma wants to know, how do you spotlight your remote skill sets and experiences on your resume and LinkedIn profile? Can we just say wait till section 2 because we're literally going to show you. Norma, not even kidding you. Like there's visuals of that. I promise you. All right. Great question, by the way. See, you're thinking ahead. Christine wants to know, Ariella, should you log into Zoom early for an interview or at the start time, and how early would be too early?
Ooh, great question. So I would be ready to go. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice today. I would be ready to go, 10 minutes before. Don't log on yet. You don't need to get on there. But, if you could be a couple minutes early, and I mean like a couple minutes, that's totally fine. But you don't want to get on there and sit by yourself for 10 minutes because then you're just going to feel awkward and psych yourself out. So I think if you can be on there and you can be ready, so by the time they start the event or the session or the interview, whatever it is, you can be all set and ready to go and you look good and you can feel confident. One tip I would say is that if you can go and check your setup, so if you have your own Zoom account, go and check your setup with the lighting and everything before you log on, before you even click the link. So that way everything looks good because sometimes you don't know how it's going to look. So yes, a couple minutes early is okay, but don't go too far because they might not even let you in before then anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. 10 minutes is like overkill. But to your point about the 2 or 3 minutes, if sometimes they use really special technology and all of a sudden it's like your computer needs to download something. So I'm with you about 2 or 3 minutes early just to make sure so that you're ready to go. Love that. Michelle wants to know, how do I discuss digital certifications I received this past year when I'm looking to gain more digital experience? So the simple answer to that, Michelle, is that it goes front and center in what we call the top fold of your resume. In LinkedIn, it's just going to drop where certifications go. And if they're looking for those certifications, it'll be there. But as far as your resume, you're going to see an example today of the top fold and why that's critically important for something like that. All right. Next question, Ariella, is does prior remote experience still help if I had a customer service remote jobs over 2020, but I'm looking for HR work that I did before COVID? Good question.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if it's relevant experience, you should be showcasing it and promoting it on your resume, as well as within your, interviews and your conversations, tie back to those examples that are relevant and can support that you've been in this area, you've done this work, you've gotten results. Just because it's, a year ago, a few years ago, doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be relevant. Now, if it's 10 years ago, that's a whole different story. 10, 15 years ago, not super relevant anymore. But if it's within the last few years, you can certainly still use it and you should be using it to promote those skill sets and experience.
Most definitely. Okay, Larissa and LH are asking some questions around non-conventional web pages or other resources where we can find remote jobs that are not through staffing agencies. So we're not endorsing any companies around this right now. I just need to be brutally honest. I don't want to hear back from people going, that didn't work for me. I'm going to tell you about some that are out there. There's a company called remote.com that you can check out. There's a company called freelance.com that you can check out. Upwork is very well known. Upwork just announced that they want to become the global marketplace for that. So Upwork is growing quite a bit. Then there's paid sites like FlexJobs, where they want you to pay a subscription to get access to some of those jobs. So I don't know if you're into that as well. And then there's some really boutique-y niche ones. Like there's one called Catalent. They're based out of Boston, and that's like high-end HR business development project work. And I think their website is gocatalent.com. Gocatalent.com. So those are some sites that you can go to, folks. My challenge with that is that everyone's applying there. It's no different than an online site. So go check them out. But you're going to learn in this second part that what we would rather you do is figure out who you want to work for and use strategies to get in front of them so that you stand out. So that's why we're not sitting here endorsing any of those per se and, telling you to specifically use them. Whereas agencies, and again, I'm not even, mentioning staffing agencies by name, but what I know is the fact that a lot of companies go, oh my gosh, I don't know how to hire remote workers. We're so stressed out right now. We're growing so fast. We're going to outsource it. We don't have time to build a recruiting model and a recruiting team. We're going to outsource it to staffing companies. I was in the industry for years. I know exactly how it works. They're exploding right now. So that's why, for me, I feel like that's a place to explore. Some of you are like, oh, temporary staffing companies, that's where people go when they can't get a job. That is not true. That is the farthest thing from the truth, especially right now. So you definitely want to not miss out on your chance to explore them. Okay. And speaking to that, do agencies place director and executive level talent? You betcha. There are agencies out there at the director high level. Korn Ferry is one that comes to mind. They're all out there. You just need to start searching in and looking for executive search firms, professional search firms. Those are the companies that you want to explore right now. It's worth your time. But like I said, you're not going to work with all of them, just a couple of key ones. All right, Ariella. Angela is a fresh graduate. Yay, Angela. Love to hear that. And most of the remote work opportunities she finds are 1 to 2 years experience. What are your thoughts? Oh, I know you're going to handle this one. You love this question.
Yes, I do love this question. So I have to say, first and foremost, don't get discouraged by this because this is very common. But the biggest thing you can do, again, I can't reinforce this enough, is to make connections within the organization, because especially as a recent grad, you have the awesome opportunity to leverage that in experience. So that way they can say, oh my gosh, I can mold this person. I can train them the way I want. They're excited about this opportunity. They're enthusiastic about getting into the workforce. I want to have that person, that energy in my company and in this role. So leverage that. Show them that you can make up for your lack of experience with enthusiasm. And the best way to do that is to have conversations with people who are working at the organization, start making connections in there, but also obviously branding yourself for success, making sure that you're, taking your experience throughout your college years and translating it, figure out what those transferable skills are, quantify where you can. But the biggest thing is to have the conversations, find companies that you feel connected to and articulate that so they can see that excitement and passion. Because again, while you don't have a ton of experience, so many companies want to be able to train people without having bad habits, right? You're so new and you're so excited to get into the workforce that this is a huge plus for a lot of opportunities. So don't get discouraged. Definitely focus on that networking strategy.
Yeah, and just a sidebar, Ariella did one of the most amazing trainings, and it's inside our platform for new graduates. So hopefully you'll stay to the end and learn how you can get in there and access it, because it's awesome. All right, the last question I want to take before our break, we're going to give you a chance to break, is the one from Anthony. What's the best way to find the salary information prior to applying for open positions? I want to talk about salary and open positions right now. This is important for you to understand. So if you work in a big city, San Francisco, New York City, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, right? These big, big cities, Boston, you have a higher cost of living, which means you are going to want a higher level salary. If you are applying for a remote job and the company is in the Midwest, you're going to have a salary issue, because if it's a remote job, they're not going to pay you your market rate to live where you want to live. The whole point of companies going remote is to make salaries more competitive. What they want is the best talent. So the reason I find this so fascinating is because remote work is going to go to the people that provide the best return on the investment. So if you want to make more money as a remote worker, you have to look at it in two ways. One, it's a cost savings. One, you cost less. in the sense that you don't have all these added expenses, commuting, etc., the money that you save. But 2, you need to talk about productivity level and how much more they're going to get from you in 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week or whatever they hire you for than if you were in person. So you've got to play up 2 factors, the savings and the value add. That is the only way you make more money. So this is where it gets interesting. You can go to sites, by the way, like Glassdoor.com. They have something called the Know Your Worth calculator, where they'll tell you based on location what salaries are based on location. All right. Other sites, salary.com, payscale.com, Indeed and Comparably also have some tools. But let's go back to that Know Your Worth calculator over at Glassdoor.com. It's based on location. If you are applying to a company and their headquarters is in Wichita, Kansas, then you need to go look at the salary rates for them for that type of job there. And that's what I want people to understand about remote work. There is a trade-off. You have to be willing to be more flexible in your pay for all the value add you're getting back about not having to be there in person. So do your homework based on the location. Because I've had some people say, well, I found this awesome work from home job, but they're offering $20,000 that I'm used to making. Yes, and they're going to get lots of people because it's an awesome remote job and people are figuring out other ways to live without that $20,000. And for some people, that remote job's a pay raise. So be very, very important for my remote workers. The way you get more money is you create more value. And the beautiful part about that, that's unlimited, because the more you learn to brand yourself as an expert in your space, as very valuable, the higher the rates you can command. Awesome. Okay, I hope that made sense. Listen, I know there were more questions, and guess what? We never get off these sessions without answering all of them. So there's going to be a whole nother Q&A section. Stay to the end. We'll answer every question until there's not a single question left. That's how we roll, I promise you. But right now you need a break. It's right on the top of the hour. We are going to give you a whopping 10 minutes. That's it. We're coming back in 10 minutes. So go stretch your legs, hydrate, right? Clear your mind and come back, because we're going to get into the second part where we really talk tactics about how you're going to get this done and how you're going to set yourself up for success, okay? All right, we'll see you in 10. All right, team, we're back. So hopefully you have gotten something to drink, you're hydrated, right? You're ready to go for part 2. We're going to dive into the tactics, the things that you're going to need to do to land that remote job now. So I just want to say before we move forward, on the break, I had a chance to look through the questions, and the conversation are amazing. You are crushing it. I think you're going to think we were psychic as we start to go into this next section. We're going to answer a lot of your questions in this next section, but that means that you're paying attention and you're really getting this. So it makes me happy. Before we begin, here's what I want you to do in the chat. Tell me the one big aha moment you had in the last section, right? What was the biggest aha moment you had about what we just talked about, which was the big picture around remote jobs? How are they different? How do you have to be different? We want to see in the comments, what was the big aha moment for you? Okay, so participate there. And with that in mind, we'll just move right into it because we got a lot to cover with you. So like I said, in this part, we're going to talk about the tactics. And I'm really excited to say that what we're going to do is walk you through something called the GLOW method. So the GLOW method actually goes back 20 years. So when I left to become a career coach, one of the things that I did is I built a private practice and I actually wrote a book. And all of our members, by the way, shout out to all our Work It Daily members who are here. If you're a member of our platform, you get to go to all of our events for free, just so you know. So they're so awesome. And they also have access to my book. The digital version of my book is in there. And in it, I teach the GLOW method. And this is something that I came up with 20 years ago to frame out how you move yourself in your career and candidly anything in your life, but specifically in your career, how to go and achieve a goal that you want. And so it's pretty straightforward. The G is gaining perspective. You need to clarify, in this case, when we're talking in the perspective of remote job search, you're going to clarify how you save or make a company money remotely. All right, we've got to clarify that. Next part is L, illuminate. You're going to define, based on that value, the job and types of companies that you want to work for. We talked about that earlier. That's very important that you self-identify. O, own your actions. You got to get the resume and the LinkedIn profile and the networking strategy in place so that you can conduct that proactive job search so that they can find you and fall in love with you and want to talk to you. And then lastly, Work It Daily. You should not be surprised that the name of the company is the W in the GLOW method. You've got to create a routine of really high payoff activities. Looking for remote work isn't a full-time job. In fact, contrary to what anybody else tells you out there, looking for work is not a full-time job. When done properly, when done strategically, you're only going to spend a few hours at it, maybe per day, or even once you get it set up per week as you're executing those high payoff activities. But again, you need to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And that's what we're going to teach you how to do. All right. Awesome. So let's talk first about the step 1, gaining perspective. So some of the things that we think are important to do is to understand and assess your workplace personas. So how you create value, as we talked about earlier. Assess your personality, because your personality is your communication style, and that becomes critically important as we've seen in remote work. And you need to map out your transferable skills. Ariella talked about that repeatedly. And as I mentioned, she has this unbelievable tool inside our platform that enables you to figure that out. And then step 4 is quantifying those transferable skills so that you can say to somebody, here's the proof that I can do what I'm talking about. So these are really, really important steps. So first, I want to talk about this idea of workplace personas, and it's going to require me to move forward here because I don't have the slides in order, but I'm going to talk about this first, and then I'm going to hand it off to Ariella to talk about personality. So we built a tool, and I know the team will provide the website for you because it's totally free to do. It's a 20-question test that will help you understand what your dominant workplace personas are. So we built this back in 2015, our company did, and we recognized that in the workplace, the way people like to create value, the way you like to take tasks or the things that you like to do that make you feel satisfied, those are personas. And we're not all of them. We can do all of them, but we tend to be drawn to 2 or 3 of them, and they end up being stronger. So this tool, this 20-question test, tells you what your top personas are. And so you can see here, there's mentor, researcher, warrior, super connector, educator, builder, optimizer, visionary. Why does this matter? Well, when you're doing remote work, if you understand these types of value, you can start to figure out what aspects of your transferable skills you would want to share. Let me give you an example. Let's use super connector. Now, super connector doesn't mean that you're some sort of extrovert. and life of the party. Super connector means that you really enjoy having one-on-one conversations with people, introducing people to other people, and making connections. That's a super connector. So if that's your persona, well, then the type of remote work that you would be really good at is what? Ones that involved you having one-on-one conversations with people, or maybe introducing people to other people. Now, if you don't know that about yourself, how are you going to know to articulate that and tie it to the job? You're not. And they don't teach you this stuff in school, and no two people are the same. So this is what we mean about you have to really self-assess and look at who you are and how you like to work, and be able to share that in your tools and in your interviews so that they get that message. Remember earlier we said you're a business of one, and Ariella kept saying you have to have a marketing strategy. You have to choose what you want to market about yourself. And what you should be marketing is your value, how you like to create work, how you like to do tasks. And so honestly, take this quiz. Like I said, it's free. It's going to open up your eyes, and that can be just one starting point around that self-assessment that's so vital. Okay. Now going back to this, the second thing is personality. And this part is just enormous. And so Ariella, talk to them a little bit about communication styles. I'm going to show the good side of communication styles, and I know you're going to talk about the bad side of the communication styles and why this is so important.
Yes. So when it comes to your communication style and ultimately your personality in the workplace, this is important to know, because you're going to want to use this information when you are asking questions during the interview process, when you're getting to know people who are working on the teams, because you're going to want to understand who you're going to be working with and how your style is going to be kind of interacting with their styles, or your personality is going to be interacting with their personalities. And so this is important as well when it comes to marketing yourself, because, each style, as JT said, has, strengths and weaknesses. And it's important to understand what both of those are. So that way, if you're asked a question about, what's your greatest weakness, you can answer it and also kind of showcase that, your personality, your communication style has pros as well. So I'll just quickly run through these. So we have 4 major personalities or communication styles in the workplace. So we have empathizers. So these are people. They like to be supportive, empathetic. They're warm. They don't like conflict. They're very much, the supportive player on the team. And so they're very tactful and caring in that sense. Then we have energizers, and energizers are outgoing. They bring the energy and they want to be doing things all the time. You'll notice that they're just kind of going a million miles an hour at a lot of times. And they like to have some competition. So they feed off of energy, and they're very much to the point in that sense, because they just want to go. They want to get the job done and have a lot of energy with that. Then we have commanders. So these are typically people who are more serious, more direct. They don't share a lot of personal information. They're kind of opposite of an empathizer in this case, because they're not so much, going to be thinking about other people's, feelings. They just want to get to the point. They want to get the job done. So you'll see a lot of commanders in high-level positions who just have to make decisions and not have to think about all the other things. Okay, so very serious, very direct, very controlled. Then we have contemplators, and I'm a contemplator. And contemplators take their time. They want to make sure all their ducks are in a row. They want to be well researched. They want to know exactly what's going to happen when they make a decision. So they're not going to make quick decisions. They're going to take their time. They're going to understand what is going to happen, where the consequences, where the gains, where the pros, cons, everything there. So they're going to take time to really think about that. And so all of these players, all these personalities, all these communication styles are essential in the workplace. So there's no bad communication style, there's no bad personality, but they all do play, different parts, and they thrive in different areas. And so it's important to understand what your style is. And we have a great quiz that I'm sure we're sharing in the chat, so you can figure out what your style is.
Yeah. Can I stop you really quick? Yeah. Because first of all, folks, Ariella mentioned she's a contemplator, but if she hadn't told you that, I hope a lot of you would have probably thought she was an energizer. And I am a commander, but hopefully you're noticing, what's our job today? What's our remote job today? We have to hold your attention, keep your energy up, and get you excited. So both of us know that this type of role requires more of an energizer moment in order to be effective. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. When you think about the types of jobs that you're going for, sometimes you're going to need to flex a style in order to better fit with that job. Would you agree, Ariella?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you were talking about the strengths and the weaknesses. Now let's show everybody the downside of what happens when you get misinterpreted. So I think, to your point, you need to know your style. You need to know how to express your style, and you need to recognize also how your style could be misinterpreted and how that might work against you. So walk them through that real quick.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you're using that word misinterpreted, because it's really not necessarily a flaw. It's just something that's, people don't necessarily understand what's going on. So for example, I'll use the contemplator. So contemplators, as we talked about, they take their time. They really want to make sure that everything is good to go before they make a decision. And that can be frustrating for example, an energizer or a commander who just wants to get things done quickly. And they want to just make sure that they're, moving forward. And so that can cause some friction on teams if that isn't understood. And so, making sure that you understand that, okay, I'm a contemplator, my boss is an energizer, or my team has energizers on it. They're expecting this of me. I need to set the expectation, say, this is how I work. This is, I want to make sure that I'm getting my ducks in a row. I'm very thorough. I think this is important for these reasons, but I understand that we need to get this decision done. So is there anything I can do to make this happen quicker for you based on, my approach here? So understanding that and communicating that is going to be very important, especially in the workplace and especially when you're on a team, because that way everybody's on the same page. They all have the expectation. But then of course you can figure out how and where you need to be adjusting, or, playing more into the energizer, playing more into the commander when you need to. So contemplators take their time. So they typically will, drag things out. Empathizers will procrastinate because they don't want to necessarily hurt other people's feelings. They don't want to, worry about, not getting something done, or hurting somebody in the process. They also tend to be very gossipy when it comes to the workplace. So they love to talk and connect with other people. But unfortunately, sometimes this can be misinterpreted because they just want to connect with people. And sometimes that translates into spreading things or sharing things that aren't necessarily going to be appropriate in the workplace or on the team. And so that can cause issues. So understanding that, maybe I need to pull back here and maybe not talk so much about, personal issues in the workplace. I need to adjust. Energizers, if you are very passionate about something, it's going to show. And sometimes this can, translate into being very pushy or aggressive, or controlling. And so you want to make sure that you can recognize that when you're being overly energetic, let's say, so that way you can adjust, tone down, and work with the team around you. Obviously, commanders, if they're direct, they're not thinking so much about, what's happening around the decision. They have to make decisions quickly. And so again, they can be seen as, pushy and demanding and controlling. And so again, if there are opportunities to adjust your style, then you're going to want to think about that when you're working with your team. And knowing all of this, once you understand the different styles, you're going to be able to quickly identify who on your team is what. And so you can adjust based on who you're talking to and what the situation is.
Yeah, I got to tell you, we know our entire team at Work It Daily. We know what everybody is. Like I said, there's no bad or good style, or like Ariella said, but we play to each other's strengths, and we recognize when somebody is stressed out and what that mode is, so we don't take it personally. We really communicate well. We know how to communicate with each other's style, and also, understand that. A great example. So I mentioned I'm a commander. When I'm in stress mode running this company, I'll go from 3-sentence emails to 4-word emails. And it's just me in a rush, right? Trying to get something done. I catch it as much as I can, but it does happen. But I'm so lucky that my teammates know my style and we know each other. They know, JT's in stress mode. And what I've done, and this is what you all need to do, is I know when I've hit that and I recognize it, I will tend to message everybody and go, just need to let you know, it is a crazy remote day today. I am slammed. I'm sorry if I'm coming across a bit direct, right? So This is what you have to understand about yourself so that you can make sure you're keeping those relationships strong, but also so that you just don't take things so personally in a virtual world. Because how many times have you read a text wrong or read an email wrong, right? That stuff happens all the time in the workplace. Understanding tools like this can make you such a powerful remote worker because you won't take things personally and you'll understand what's really going on. So great overview on that. Again, the quiz is totally free. It's another one of our free quizzes. I hope that you take that one as well. All right, so we talked about that, the personas, we talked about personality. Now as we talked about moving into illuminating the goal, right? So now you've done some self-assessment. You're starting to learn about yourself and what you want to market of your business of one. Now we need to dial in on who you want to work for. Notice what I'm saying, who you want to work for. That's right. One of the most powerful things we teach at Work It Daily is how you take control and choose where you want to work. That is the number one reason why so many people don't like work, because their whole lives they felt like they've had no choice. That ends now. When you take ownership, you choose where you work. And guess what? Every job's temporary. So when the situation undoubtedly changes over time, you'll choose again and you'll choose again. But how empowered will you be when you know how to choose, right? And it starts with illuminating the goal. So as Ariella talked about in the last section, first of all, you're going to look for jobs descriptions that match your skills and interests. Once you figure out what those are. And then we're going to show you a technique where you use a word cloud to see the pattern in the requirements of those job descriptions. Once you know that, once you can see the types of skills these jobs need, you can start to create bucket lists of employers you want to work for who hire for these skill sets, right? We live in such an amazing time. I don't even want to tell you how old I am because when I looked for work, when I was in college, you went down to this rickety old building, you took out these dusty old books on a shelf, and you read these huge books with no pictures to learn about companies that were in your area that you would want to work for. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. That's how I had to look for work. And now we have this gorgeous thing called the internet where every employer out there is giving as much, more information than they ever could, some more than others, to try to help you job shop, because they want you to want to work for them. So you are able to create a bucket list of employers. And then once you create this bucket list, when you start to say, oh, I'd like to work for that type of company, and you put enough together on a list, you look at the patterns. There's always patterns. You'll suddenly realize, gee, all the companies I like they all do environmental stuff, or all the companies I like are all in luxury brands, or gee, all the companies I like, help customers of a certain demographic. There are patterns in what you're attracted to. We all have patterns. We're all attracted to different things. Now, before I move forward and show you these examples, here's some of the things people tell me. Well, JT, we're all going to want to work for the same companies. Not even true. Not even true. Okay. You're all different. I'm going to do a really fun game with you right now. All right. I'm sorry if you have a peanut allergy or you don't like peanut butter, but for everyone out there who likes peanut butter right now, name the brand that you like the most right now, without thinking about it. Post the brand. Let's see what happens. I'm going to show you the power of this. And this is why this job search technique is so awesome. And nobody knows about it except people who do Work It Daily. Okay. So come on. What'd you put in there? I want to see them start coming up in the chat. Peanut butter immediately. Your favorite peanut butter. Oh, look at that. Peter Pan, Skippy, Jif, Jiffy Crunch, Jif Teddies. Okay. Kraft Natural, Reese's. Look at that. Some of you had the same, but so many are different. Those are all based on what? Your personal preferences, your personal experiences. Just because your best friend loves her job and loves working at that company doesn't mean you should be there. Okay? It's not a one size fits all. There's not a company that's right for everybody. And that is an amazing thing. Because when you know what your unique skill sets are, when you know the kinds of companies you'd like to work for, stop worrying about what other people think. Who cares if they wouldn't want to work there? This is how you put that focus on and you start to connect, because we're going to show you the power of that connection in a little bit. Okay. Is everyone starting to get this? This is game-changing stuff here that nobody's teaching you. All right. So here's the first thing I want to show you. So this is literally, I went in yesterday just to show you how quick it was. This is a company that posted a 100% remote technical account manager job. And what we'll do really quick, I'll ask my teammate, Lindsay, can we make that full screen? Can you take Ariel and I off screen for a hot second here? Yeah. And folks, you'll get these slides afterwards. but literally they just posted this to the point that it had only been up a few hours and there had been, I think, 0 applicants or 1 applicant. All right. So companies are posting, and I was actually shocked to find this one on LinkedIn, but do you see how they're like in big all caps putting 100% remote? This is what I mean. Companies are just figuring out how to hire for this stuff. So you got to be paying attention, and you've got to know what kinds of companies that you're looking for. Now, here's what I did with this. I took the very top part of the job description. So at the bottom, they usually talk about the instructions for applying and that they're an equal opportunity employer. I didn't take any of that. All I did was highlight, copy all of the text that talked about what you needed to be considered for the job. And any of you can do that, okay? And all I did was go over and find a free word cloud. I went to wordle.net and I turned that text into a word cloud. Now, what a word cloud does is it looks at how many times that one word was in the body of text. And the more times the words were in the text, the more popular the word, which is by default going to tell you that that's probably pretty important to this company. So obviously you see the word technical, you see account, you see manager, you see customer. So now we know this is a customer position. We see online. Heck yeah, that's sounding pretty good, right? We're seeing SaaS, software as a service. We're seeing e-commerce. We see please, we see web. So you can start to see, and then you can look at some other ones in there, what this job is about and what you need to emphasize in order to be considered for this job. Is that making sense to everyone? This is what we mean about starting to figure out the types of skill sets they're going to want you to have to be considered for this position. This cost me absolutely nothing to do, and it took me under a minute. Very, very powerful tool for you to help figure this out. Does that make sense to everyone? Can you see that? And if you go find job after job and you do this, you're going to see the patterns in the kind of work that you're interested in and what they're interested in. Because here's the thing, you don't want to say that you're a Jack or Jill of all trades. Lindsay, we can come back on screen now. You don't want to say that you're a Jack or Jill of all trades. You want to show and highlight that you're a specialist. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in job search is they build their resume and they build their LinkedIn profile and they try to tell them everything they've ever done. And they try to make themselves sound so amazing. And they hype themselves up with all this like subjective salesy text. Not only is that too much information, seriously TMI, but also you don't get found as often and you make it easier for them to not call you. Let me say that again. The more information you put on your resume and your LinkedIn profile, the easier you make it for recruiters to not call you. Recruiters are in the business of screening you out. They have to look at hundreds, sometimes thousands of applicants. And what they want is the person that's just right. It's just like Goldilocks. Not too much, not too little, just right. When you are looking for remote work, your resume and your LinkedIn profile have to be teaser copy. Essentially, you have to have just enough information there so that they can quickly look at it and go check. Oh, this person has what we're looking for, but I think I need more information, so we're going to have to talk to them. This is such a big opportunity missed out there right now, and most people just don't understand it. And that's what we want you to understand. So doing this homework that we're showing you right now so that you can choose the right things to put on your resume and your LinkedIn profile, that is the remote job search game changer. That's the secret sauce. And it works. I am not kidding you. It absolutely works. So let's talk about how you translate that in, because this gets to the fun part. Ariella, you and your team of coaches do this every single day. Talk a little bit about the need to work on the resume, the top fold, the work history, and LinkedIn, and then we'll show them some examples.
Great. Yes. So in this part of the process, you need to obviously brand yourself for those target opportunities. And in order to stand out and make it easy for them to want to give you a call, as opposed to easy for them to put you in the no pile, you need to make sure that you're doing the following. So you need to update the top fold of your resume, to promote your transferable skill sets. And we're going to show you a visual about on this in a second. But this is very important. This is different than a lot of resumes that you've seen, but it works. And you'll notice a lot of empty space on the page. Don't be scared by this. This actually makes it easy for the reader to go and look at the information they need to see quickly. So this is really important. So promoting the skill sets that are the most relevant to the opportunity that you're applying for is going to be a must. Second thing you're going to want to do is quantify that work history. So we've talked about this at length now, but the best thing you can do to prove that you have those skill sets that you're listing on the top fold is to bring relevant accomplishments and quantify them. Show them the results that you've gotten by using those skill sets in your work history. And then obviously you're going to want to, make sure that you're optimizing your LinkedIn profile, using the right skills and the right keywords. So that way recruiters can go and find you in LinkedIn searches. So they use LinkedIn very much like we use Google or Amazon. So you put in a keyword to find the product or the service or whatever it is that you're looking for, and it will pop up, but only if it has the keywords that are listed or that are relevant to what you're looking for. So if you don't have the right keywords, then you're not necessarily going to show up in those search results. So it's very important to optimize your LinkedIn profile here. And then obviously, as we've talked about, you want to make sure that you're connecting with employees at the organizations, sharing your story, asking them questions, really getting your foot in the door that way, because that's going to help you brand yourself to people within the organization so they can see your value and how you align with that organization and how you can add value there. So this is all going to be very important in terms of marketing yourself for these opportunities. So we'll show you some visuals here.
Yeah, and I just want to say before we get into this, so you are seeing here what we call the top fold of our proprietary resume template. And this is a really good time to let you all in on something kind of exciting. So we've been talking about our platform here. We are a gym membership for your career, right? But we're less than the cost of Netflix. Our monthly membership starts at $9.99 a month. So we're less than your entertainment. And the reason we designed it is we believed that if we could give you access to the right templates and the right videos and the right tools and the right coaching, that you could make massive quantum leaps in your career. So what you're all going to be able to do today, at the end of this session, we are going to show you that we are giving you 7 days to join us at discounted rates. So these rates will only be good for 7 days. But even better, if you sign up with us in the next 24 hours on one of these discounted rates, we're going to give you a code that's good only for those 24 hours that takes the $5 you spent on this event off your first month. So literally you're going to get your $5 back if you sign up with us in the next 24 hours. And the reason we tell you that is that we want you to see how powerful this stuff is. You can do this on your own based on what you see today. But if you would really like all the templates, all the tutorials and everything, because we can't possibly do that in 2.5 hours, all you need to do is sign up with the code we're going to give you, and you will literally get $5 off your first month. And like I said, the basic membership is $9.99 a month. So you'd be able to join us literally for that first month for $4.99 and get access to all of this. We also have coaching levels. So if you would like to work with coaches like Ariella and myself, either via unlimited private chat, we have a level for that. And if you would like a phone call once a month plus unlimited chat, we have a package for that. But we really tell everybody, just start at the level that you need and use this code in the next 24 hours. And again, you're going to get discounts on all those rates, but those discounts will only be good for 7 days. So you'll get emails on all of that. But I just wanted to tell you that because people usually see this part and go, oh no, how do I get everything? We've made it as easy and as affordable as possible for you to do that, okay? All right, so moving into the top fold. So this is something, I just want to back up and tell you, we did an assessment, a blind test with recruiters. We polled, because we have access to a ton of recruiters, 73% of recruiters told us they prefer this format, 73%. And it works extremely well because as you've seen here, Ariella mentioned the top fold of the resume. So Ariella, walk everybody through why this particular information from a remote job search standpoint is so critical for a recruiter to see in that first 6 to 13 seconds.
Yeah. So first off, when you read in a Z pattern, right? And so you want to make sure that you're not cluttering the page with a lot of text, a lot of graphics, colors, formatting, because it gets very overwhelming, even just in the first few seconds that you're starting to read. And we see a lot of resumes that are just packed to the border with information because people want to make sure that they're including absolutely all of their skill sets, all of their experience, thinking that it's going to help them market themselves, which we've already talked about. It doesn't help them market themselves as much as they think. In fact, it actually helps the recruiter say, nope, I'm going to move on to somebody who's going to make it easy for me. So in this case, as you can see here, there's a lot of empty space, and that's very intentional. We don't try to fill up the page because you want to make sure that when you're opening this document, I'm seeing one thing to start. That first thing is going to be the headline, digital marketing specialist. So I, within only a few seconds, have a clear understanding of how Gary adds value. Gary is branding himself as a digital marketing specialist. If that's relevant to the opportunity I'm hiring for, I'm going to keep reading. And then from there, I'm going to see these beautiful columns of hard skill sets that are very easy to read. So I'm following the Z pattern. I'm going down to the first column and I'm seeing a bunch of supportive hard skill sets that, they support that digital marketing specialty. Then I go to the next column. I see some more hard skill sets that support it as well. And so I'm getting more proof that Gary knows what he's talking about in terms of digital marketing. And again, if it's relevant to what I'm looking for and the skills or the skill sets I need to hire for, I'm going to keep reading. So we go down, we have this brief kind of snapshot of some other things. So this is the top fold here. We just want to make sure that we're including the most important information first. So if this, a job, requires a degree, you're obviously going to want to make sure that that's up there. Even if it doesn't, you're going to want to make sure that you have it if you do have a degree. If, you are fluent in other languages, you want to use that as well because it can give you an edge over other candidates. This is a great skill set, no matter what field you're going into. Technologies, so software, program systems that you know how to use, programming languages, things like that. If those are relevant to the opportunities you're applying for, you're going to want to include them here because you want them to see immediately that you have experience and proficiency in these tools. Okay. And this is also going to help you optimize your resume so that way they can again see that there's a match here. Certifications. If this particular opportunity requires certain certifications, you want to list those right up front so they can see them and they're not digging through all of this other text on your resume to find it. And again, industries, it just helps them to see you have experience in certain relevant industries. And again, this just within a few seconds, I have a very clear understanding of Gary, what his specialty is, what skills he has to offer, any other additional information that I need or that I require for this particular job. And then I'm going to go down to the work history and see how he supports that with his quantifiable accomplishments. So within a few seconds, you really have a very good understanding. You can read it clearly, and it's not totally cluttered and overwhelming. So you're making it easy for them to want to give you a call.
Yeah, and I just want to add in, the reason this format works so well is once you start to use that word cloud and figure out what skills should be here, some jobs you might just want to switch. People often say, well, I have to customize my resume for every job. True, but with our format, you only customize the top fold. Cuts it down in that. The rest of the resume is standard. So once you learn how to build this, you can adjust it as needed for each opportunity. It's a total game changer. It really is. But again, you need to do the steps we've talked about in order to be able to choose the right things to put here in the top fold. By the way, with our pro membership, which we'll show you later, the unlimited coaching, you literally send your resume to our recruiters, our career specialists, and they review it and tell you if you've done it right or wrong. You send your resume to them, your LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, interview prep. With our coaches, it's unlimited. It's one monthly rate. You message them. They will look at all these materials, tell you if you did it right or wrong for the kinds of jobs you're applying to, and help you get it right, because we understand that. So more on that in a bit, all right? In case you're wondering, how do I know if I got it right? We'll tell you. Now, we also talked about the LinkedIn profile. The most valuable real estate on your LinkedIn profile is your headline. See my headline right after my name? And that is because there are over 740 million profiles on LinkedIn and counting. So think of that like Google. You know, when you go out and you search, as Ariella said, the search results come back. How does Google know what to tell you is the most relevant? Because usually you get 12,000 pages, but I don't think there's a single one of us that look at all 12,000 pages. Well, the same thing happens to recruiters. They put in the skill sets they were told to look for the remote job. And then all of a sudden, what's going to come up? Hundreds and hundreds of people. So how do you end up being the top 10, 20, 30 people? It has to do with your headline. Because if the words they're looking for in your headline, LinkedIn gives your profile more weight. It says, well, this person put it in their headline. And then if you have it in other sections, like your about section in your work history, you're creating a little bit of what we call density, meaning it's going, oh, that person really does have those skill sets, but the headline is key. And notice what we did here. You do the vertical line dividers, because when they search and see you, what comes up is your photograph and that headline. So again, you want them to see 5 or 6 of those skill sets they've been told to look for that remote opportunity to get them to click through. This is what we talk about gaming the system. And once you do this, you will see a total spike, especially when you choose the right keywords, in the number of views on your profile. And most people don't know this. Most people are putting these long sentences on, and the majority of the words in the sentence are not words that recruiters search on, and they don't understand why they're not being found. You're not being found because you haven't keyword optimized your LinkedIn profile. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show you on LinkedIn, do you see my open to button right below my follower count? See that right here, the open to? When you click that, you get this screen. And what I want you to see is this right here. Do you see the I'm open to remote work? Do you know how many people don't know that exists on LinkedIn? A lot. So you can add locations and you can add job titles that you're interested in. I personally don't think you need to. That won't necessarily increase the amount of search results that you're in. You might not want to limit yourself, but I would sure as heck go in there right now and hit, well, not right now. Stay tuned afterwards. And hit open to remote work. And you can say immediately, I'm actively applying, right? Or flexible, right? Whatever I'm casually browsing, totally your call, but I would click one of those and I would click open to work. By the way, your employer can't see that. That's not public anywhere on your profile. And LinkedIn has set up a system where anybody that comes from your company or previously came from your company can't see that on the back end. So that way they've created a way for people who have a job to signal to recruiters that they're open to remote work. So you click that, which again, most people don't know about right now. LinkedIn hasn't made it prevalent. You will show up in more searches for recruiters because you have selected that option. Okay? How cool is that? Awesome. All right. So Ariella, we're going into the last step and we're already getting a lot of questions, which is great. But now we want to talk about that work it daily aspect. We don't want you looking for work all day long. We want you being very intentional. So you figure out the companies you're interested in and you build relationships with them. So walk everybody through how that relationship building process starts.
Yes. So honestly, as an introvert who hated connecting with people and networking because it was just, a lot, for my fellow introverts out there and extroverts, there's an easier way to go and connect with people and make connections and get your foot in the door. And thankfully, it's on LinkedIn, right? So you essentially, all you need to do to get started here and start gaining connections within your organizations is to find people who work at your target organizations on LinkedIn. So go to that company's LinkedIn page, go and look at the people who work there, scroll down and just kind of look at people who are employed at that organization. And for the people who really stand out, maybe you have mutual connections, maybe they have similar interests or skills, or maybe they work in hiring or in the department that you'd want to focus on. Go and connect with a few people there and just go to their profile and invite them to connect. And what you're going to want to do here, and this is really important, is to just go and quickly write a personalized invitation note, because if you send a blank invitation, the chances of them accepting are pretty low. So you want to make sure that you give them context. So we have a great template for this, but essentially what you're going to want to do is just say, hey there, we haven't met, but I'm a huge fan of your organization, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about your experience there. Can we connect? So that's all it takes to just get those conversations started. And not everybody's going to accept or respond because of various reasons. But for the people who do, you can start those conversations and you can focus the conversation on them and say, thanks so much for connecting. Again, I really am a huge fan of your organization. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience there and what you love about working for ABC company? So get them talking about it so they can get excited. It's easy to answer. My rule of thumb is to ask one icebreaker question that's, easy to answer in 1 minute or less. So that way they're not tempted to look at the message and say, oops, I'm going to mark that unread and get back to it, because they never do. Okay, so no novels, keep it simple, but that's a great way for you to start making connections within an organization and getting your foot in the door, okay? And so once you do that, you can start getting introductions, ask for advice, and even ultimately sending a really wonderful disruptive cover letter to someone on the hiring team. So you've got some great outlets or channels to contact people within the organization, start those conversations, and share that story. And we've had multiple people reach out to us on LinkedIn with just their disruptive cover letter to show us, I'm so excited about your organization. This is why I love what you do. This is why I think I can add value there. And it really does make a difference in terms of standing out. And people are happy to help you out and pass you along if they can.
Yeah. So I just want to say that this is such a big game changer also on the technology side of LinkedIn. So recruiters spend thousands of dollars on a special access to special software within LinkedIn that you don't have access to. And it helps them find, sort, and create, like searches that of people and go back to those searches repeatedly. And so one of the things that's fascinating is the way they see your profile. So if you come up in their search results and they click on you, one of the things it tells them is how many people you're connected to at their current employer. So this technique Ariel is talking about is huge. Even if these people don't end up responding to you, but they connect with you. If I'm a recruiter and I see your profile and I see that you're connected to 7 people at my company, remember as somebody was saying earlier, what if I have nobody and I have no connections? That looks like, well, you've made connections with people at our company. They're going to look at your profile. So this is why you use this system. Even if these folks don't talk to you, reaching out and asking people at the companies you're interested in to connect using the customized connection request and the techniques Ariel is discussing is an unbelievable way to establish yourself so that more recruiters find you, so that they come to you. And I just want to give her such a big, huge shout out. Ariella built this networking class inside our platform as an introvert for introverts and extroverts too. But for people who just didn't want to feel intrusive, it's amazing. It is an amazing networking class. So if you want to see how to write the connection request, how to write the intro emails, she's done all that in our class inside the platform, just so you know. But the one thing we wanted to show you is this idea of a connection story and a disruptive cover letter. We are really proud. We are the inventors. We can say this of the disruptive cover letter. If you go Google search disruptive cover letter, the majority of stuff will come up about disruptive cover letter from us. We've been talking about it for a decade. In fact, recently, we had an organization that I will not name hijack it and try to claim that they invented it. And we were actually able to go back to them and prove that, no, we're the founders of the disruptive cover letter, and you literally plagiarized us and you need to give us credit. But I won't name the company, but I'm just telling you that's how important this technique is to us, because this is getting people who have been out of the work for a decade, who are looking to change careers, who have had some kind of trouble. This is how brand new graduates, so you have no work experience. This technique is how you get employers to want to talk to you. So the disruptive cover letter is not a traditional cover letter. Please don't, if anything, please don't take templates off the internet that are free. That stuff that starts with "to whom it may concern," career killer. The ones that start with "I'm responding to your job posting in the blah, blah, blah," career killer. When you regurgitate your resume, as you'll see in my resume, I've got this, this, and this, career killer. That is outdated. A disruptive cover letter is a story. We are a storytelling world. We live on social media. We like to follow interesting people. We like interesting stories. So why wouldn't recruiters want the same? They crave them. And these disruptive cover letters are a game changer. I'm going to ask Lindsay, our teammate, to put this full screen, take us off for a second so you can see it. Again, it's a little hard to see, but it says, the headline there says, "Dear hiring team, 5 pieces of original Oreo and a glass of milk." Can you imagine if you're a recruiter going through and all of a sudden you open up a cover letter and it says, "Dear hiring team, 5 pieces of original Oreo and a glass of milk." So this is an actual disruptive cover letter that we did with a member where they wanted to get a job at Kraft. So their opening story was about how that was their snack prior to them playing a sport after school, and how they fell in love and had this relationship with the brand for over a decade. Then the person went into really connecting to Kraft's commitment and highlighting that piece, and then just closed with, "How can I take my relationship with you to the next level?" and gave their information. This technique, this framework, it is how you build that connection with that employer, how you let them know that you have something called internal or intrinsic motivation. Why is that important for remote job work? Can we come back on screen, Lindsay? The reason it's important is that if you're going to work remote and I'm not going to see you every day, you better believe I am very worried about you being self-motivated. I need to know that you are going to want to get up every day and try to exceed my expectations from afar. So if I know you have a passion and a connection for what we do or how we do it, and you can articulate it like this in some way, then I know that you've got that drive that you're going to need to succeed. And I can't teach that. I can't drop that in you. You have to be able to show me that, okay? And maybe you don't have a story as crazy as this, but if it's the type of work, tell me why you're into the type of work. You know, we have had so many doubters come in with this technique, and we just say, just try it. And they get literally a company on their bucket list calls them and says, that's the best cover letter I ever read. And another thing people come at me with now is like, well, if everyone uses disruptive cover letter, then it won't be original. Once again, I gave you the peanut butter example. No two people write a disruptive cover letter the same way. So it doesn't get tiring. And more importantly, there's not 8 million people on here. This is a really good technique that helps you differentiate yourself, especially when you're not a perfect fit for the job. Okay. So cover letter template or structure and tutorial inside our platform. And if you have one of our pro member subscriptions or our ultimate subscription, you literally design your cover letter and you send it to our coaches and they help you correct it and make sure that it's perfect. But I'm telling you, if you want one of these jobs, okay, some people go, oh, this seems like a lot of work. Can't I just hit the easy apply? You're telling us you want an amazing job where you work from home. You're also telling me you'd like to make more money. What did I say earlier? In order to get that more money, no matter where you live and get that remote job, you've got to show the value. You have got to connect and get them to want you so they'll pay the extra money so that they'll pick you over the competition. This is the game changer, the type of game changer that does it. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone because it's really, really important. Okay, we're going to go into a huge Q&A session. We absolutely promise you we will not leave until we answer every question. But before we do that, I'm going to put Lindsay, our producer, on the spot and tell her, can you bring up our pricing page? Because I think it's important just to walk people through really quickly. For anybody that has to bounce, you're going to get this in an email, but it is important that we explain how it works because we always have somebody afterwards that is upset that they missed out. Here's the deal. You're getting a code, and in the next 24 hours, that code will only work. It shuts off in 24 hours. You can apply it to any one of our memberships. We have monthly memberships and we have annual memberships that are at a massive discount. You might say, well, why would I want an annual membership? I'm just going to find a remote job and be done. No, we're actually a career coaching company. We don't just help people find jobs. We then help you onboard yourself so that you exceed expectations in the first 90 days. A lot of people don't know this, but in HR, they watch you in the first 90 days. And the people that do the best in the first 90 days stay the longest and get the most promotions. Proven fact. So we have an onboarding class that we coach you through. Then when you're in the job, we help you strategize on how to get your next position, how to promote, how to build your personal brand. So coaching, the more you invest in your brand, your coaching, the better off you'll be. And that's what we are. All right. So we have monthly subscriptions, no setup fees. You can cancel at any time. We're seriously better than a gym membership for that reason. And these are the discount prices, just so you know, discount prices that you will get access to for 7 days. So you'll get emails about that. And as you see, you can also do annuals that are even cheaper. So if you like to lock in huge savings and work all year, you can do that. The discount code will take the $5 you spent off anyone, monthly or annual, anyone that you buy, okay? And that's only good for 24 hours. Why are we doing that? Because we want you to put this into practice. Hopefully you are seeing today that you can do a remote job. You're seeing the techniques that we teach are not anything else out there. Now we want you to put it into action. It's not going to take you all day, but if you can just come in and join a little bit every day, you're going to get this done. And in addition to all of the classes, all the templates, everything we just showed you, we have live events. We have events where you learn how to network. We have events where you learn how to present. We have office hours where we answer questions of our members several times a week. It's just everything. And we also have a private community where you meet your peers. All these people that are members already, they're talking about River. That's what they're talking about. They chat in something called River. They all hang out together. You need to be around people who want to get done what you want to get done. And for many of us, we don't have access. Certainly in the pandemic, we did not have access to be around people who want to achieve what we want to achieve. That's what Work It Daily is. We are the ultimate career club. Okay, so I really hope you join us, especially in the next 24 hours. And while you're getting the recording all week, we'll remind you about the discounted rates, and then those go away too, just so you know. Okay, all right, I'm done with that. Let's take some questions, Ariella. Are you ready to be put on the hot seat, my teammate, my friend?
Yes, absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, Erin asks, I've been out of the workforce for some time. How can I narrow down what job I should focus on?
Great question. So I think the first step, and this is what I advise our members at Work It Daily, is you can't restrict yourself. You can't just say, I was in this industry, I need to follow that path. I'd encourage you to just start with exploring what kinds of jobs are out there today, because there are new jobs all over the place, especially right now. So many different types of new jobs have become available. There are different needs, there are different demands. So there could be something completely different it didn't exist when you were first looking for opportunities. So I'd go and just, honestly, this is what I love about job boards. You can just scroll through and see what kinds of jobs are out there. You can also just Google the different types of jobs for 2021 and just kind of explore and see what types of, opportunities are out there, because something's going to spark an interest, and that's going to help you narrow down. The other thing you can do is to go, there's a really great tool. It's called, it's on ONET. And it's essentially, it's called the ONET Interest Profiler. And if you go there, it's free. You essentially take this little quiz, and it will recommend certain career paths or opportunities that align with your skills and your strengths and your interests. Really cool, super free, and you should actually go and take a look, because it can at least spark something so you can go and investigate what types of opportunities. But the other thing is, go and look at your transferable skill sets. After you've done some exploring, see what's in your toolbox, see what kinds of skills you want to leverage in your next opportunity, and go and start thinking about jobs that align with that.
Can I also just add too that there's an incredible professional strengths class inside our platform where we have you evaluate yourself on 7 different areas. And you can even have your strengths assessment results looked at by the coaches. So if you're really struggling to understand what that should look like, folks, then come in and do some deep assessment with our class and be able to look at that and understand it. Because you're right, it's not intuitive because we weren't taught to do it, but it's not rocket science or brain surgery. You just need the information in order to start to narrow down that search. And you can do it. You absolutely can do it. All right, I want to take this one. LH and FH are having a conversation about being over 50 and say, are 50 and olders discriminated against in the job market? And FH says, I've had people say to me, you're too old to work here and enjoy it. We have a younger crowd. Okay, so first of all, anybody that flat out said that to you, that is literally illegal age discrimination. Just saying. Unfortunately, a lot of the younger startup companies haven't been trained in HR tactics and don't even know they're doing something illegal when they say that. They don't mean it. They don't mean to be illegal, but obviously that would be an illegal statement. Here's the thing. Where I see people over 50 making a much bigger mistake, especially when they're applying to online jobs and remote jobs, is that they're overdoing it on their career tools. So remember I was saying too much information is a career killer. First of all, on their resumes, they get these big fancy resumes done a lot of times by a resume writer who has actually swindled you. Because what they've done is design this big fancy, use a fancy font, and they filled it, and they use all this fancy language to talk about what an innovative self-starter and proven effective leader you are. Recruiters can spot a resume written by a resume writer a mile away. So you're already getting a ding because it's a hype piece. Secondly, it's often done in an old school format, which immediately you get discriminated against. And so many people don't understand this. We evaluate resumes every day, literally thousands of resumes a year in Work It Daily. And time and again, I can, without even looking at the age of somebody, know if it's an over 50 resume because it is done in an old school way. So that's where a lot of the discrimination starts. It ends up looking narcissistic and desperate. Secondly, they do the same thing on LinkedIn. So the first thing you have to do is get an updated look and feel to your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Has to be done. The second thing you have to do is you have to go on the offensive. You know how they say that the best defense is a good offense? If you know that you could be discriminated against for your age, which is really experienced discrimination, they're worried that you're going to want too much money, be set in your ways, and tell everybody how to do things, and you're going to be just like their parents. They have preconceived notions about you. You have to disrupt their mindset. You do that by not only updating your materials like we just talked about, but in your interviewing techniques, they need to dramatically change. How you act in the interview needs to change. Let me give you an example. When I do interview prep with people over 40, they tend to want to tell me everything they've ever done and really talk about how they're a jack or Jill of all trades. What they don't understand is that's coming across as overkill and a know-it-all. And so then they'll say to me, well, they were just threatened by my knowledge. No, they weren't threatened by your knowledge. They have the job. They work at the employer. The issue they have is the way you presented yourself lacked emotional intelligence and intellectual humility. The smarter you get, The higher you go, the more experience you have, the more humility you have, the more questions you should ask, the more accepting you should be. And this is unintentionally not portrayed correctly by people over 40 and in their 50s. So I know that's hard to hear for a lot of people over 50, but you got to learn and grow here. And you've got to update yourself and have new tactics and new approaches. And it definitely starts with an overhaul on your materials, because I can open it in literally in 10 seconds, know how old you are based on an outdated resume format. And oftentimes one done by a professional resume writer. Okay, LH is asking Ariella, does the Wordle.net make sure that you have the skills your resume needs to move through the ATS? Oh gosh, please take this one because you know how I feel.
Yeah, so Wordle and all those other word cloud platforms, there's another one that we use, it's called TagCrowd, I believe. They just help you identify what words are showing up more in a certain copied text, right? So they're not going to add anything. They're not going to take anything away. It's just a way for you to identify easily that there's more, accounting, like that keyword accounting is showing up a lot. So you might want to include that on your resume because that's going to help you. But we have to say this, you can optimize your resume as much as possible. You can customize it for the opportunity as much as you can, but you're never going to know what's actually going to get through the ATS because they're all built differently. They all have different settings. They're all looking for specific things for different opportunities. So you can do your best to, create a great resume that you hope will get through the ATS, but your best bet is to have someone actually physically take it and put it on someone's desk or email it to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so making it easy for them to see the right information and skills is, the best thing you can do. If you're applying online, you're going to want to also take the route of networking and trying to get it into someone's hands because it's never guaranteed, no matter how much you optimize it.
Yeah, let me make sure people understand. So there's over 100 different ATS systems out there. They're all built differently. And the role of the ATS is not to screen you in, but screen you out. If they get 100 applicants, they don't want to look at all 100 applicants. Even if all 100 applicants have everything they're looking for, on the ATS side, they say, only give me the ones that answer this way to these 5 questions. You don't know which 5 questions it is, but that's how they're able to get it down to 20. So these companies that claim that they can fix your resume for the ATS, it's a bunch of baloney because they can't get you through every ATS. And if you try to gamify your resume so it gets through ATS, it generally looks funny. And when a recruiter finally looks at it, if you make it through the ATS and they look at it, they can tell when you've tried to gamify, points off. So this is why you don't want to bother with that. It's not smart in any way. Ariella's suggestion is definitely the way to go, gets much better results. All right, following up on that question, Gina says, should you have more than one LinkedIn profile to separate the different areas of expertise? Absolutely not, Gina. And I am so glad you asked this because it can be frustrating on LinkedIn because the reality is with LinkedIn, you can only brand yourself one way. That is the truth. So you have to pick a lane essentially. And I'll give you a great example. I had somebody who wanted to get into technology, but also sold real estate. So they wanted to try to do both things on their LinkedIn profile. You can't because a recruiter looks at it and says, well, do you want to be in real estate or do you want to tech? Because am I going to give you this tech job and then you're going to sell a big house and you're going to dump the job? Like all their job is to screen you out. Think about it. A recruiter their success is based on how many successful hires they make. So they have to make sure they get the right people. And if there's something that makes them worried that you might not be the right one, you're out. So this is what I mean about not too much information, not too little. So you also, Gina, and I know that's frustrating, you can't have multiple descriptions. You got to pick a lane on LinkedIn and you got to optimize for it. Lisa wants to know how far back work experience should have on the LinkedIn. My resume has only 10 years, but my LinkedIn has all of my jobs. So that's 21 years. What do you think about that?
Yes, so we definitely recommend only going back on your resume, 10 to 15 years, depending on how long you were at those opportunities, because in the end, the farther back you go, the less relevant those opportunities or those skills, that experience essentially is to these jobs that you're applying for, these employers. When it comes to LinkedIn, we typically say the same thing because, again, it's not relevant. So at that point, you don't need to list it. The thing is, though, if you want to share it on your LinkedIn profile, you do have the opportunity because it hides experience that's, way down. So if you want to list things and just show that you have that experience, you certainly can. For the resume, it's more about cutting down space. So we recommend 1 to 3 pages max for your resume. So if you've got 21 years of experience, that's going to be a long resume and they're not going to read all of it. So that's why you'd cut it down there. But on your LinkedIn profile, you have a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, we usually say 15 years on the resume, and you could go back 20 if that last 5 years was hyper relevant, right? And I hear you on the LinkedIn piece. I just always get worried, like, really, how relevant is your skill from 25 years ago? Unless you worked at some major company. I just don't think it's always necessary. And I can tell you flat out, if you're putting the full 25 on LinkedIn, you're being discriminated against for the full length of your age. So you've got to make a critical decision about what kind of jobs you're going after and whether or not they would require that level of experience. That's something you could talk through with the coach as well. All right. Larissa says, what do I do when I don't want my current employer to know I'm looking for a job, and how at the same time to tailor my LinkedIn profile for the recruiter? So Larissa, when you join Work It Daily and you do our LinkedIn plan class, the very first thing we have you do is change all your privacy settings so that when you make changes to the LinkedIn profile, it doesn't notify people. That's really, really important, everyone. When you're adjusting your LinkedIn profile per our instructions, you've got to set it so that only you can see your profile. That way, when you change your headline and your headshot and the about section, it's really important the about section be a certain way in order to, again, create that check mark effect for a recruiter. You want to do that all in privacy mode. And then you can turn it back on and it hasn't notified anybody. So literally, it would mean that somebody at your company would have to physically think to go over and look at your profile. And even then, what you'll see, we never suggest you say open to new opportunities. That's actually works against you. We don't have you do anything that says I'm looking. All we have you do is keyword optimize it and update it. Trust me, recruiters know, and especially if you hit that open to work, that privacy button, recruiters know, and they have no shame. If you're the right candidate, okay, they're going to message you, even if you have a job right now, even if you have a great job right now, they're going to message you. So knowing how to optimize your profile is all you need to do, and it will not tip, because I don't like how some of these other coaches out there are making you go, pick me, tell them I'm hiring. It actually doesn't work. For every one recruiter that's into that, there's another that is not. But our technique is just optimizing your experience. The recruiter will do the rest. The recruiter will come to you. Let's see. LH wants to know, how many years of work experience should you include if the relevant experience is 3 jobs prior to your most recent experience, Ariella?
So again, our rule, like if you can go back 15 years, I mean, at that point, it's so long ago that it's not going to be super relevant. So what I would suggest, if you can't include it, if it's too long and if it's too far back, find ways to boost your experience with certifications, volunteering, find other ways to gain those skills. But if it's super relevant, it's hyper relevant to that opportunity, you can include it, but just know that if it's so far back, they might not put as much emphasis on it just because of the time frame. But you can still list the skills in your top fold. You can obviously still quantify, but just know that there's not going to be as much emphasis there. The other thing you can do this is kind of far, like where it's kind of far back. I don't know if I necessarily recommend it, but move the other irrelevant experience that's above into your additional experience and just focus on that. But then the employer is going to have questions about what were you doing and that time frame, and was that relevant or not? In which case you can share any transferable skills, but that's the one downfall there.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I'm just going to tag in on this and say, when you do the top fold correctly, they're going to see that and say, okay, well, let me go see where he got that experience. So as long as you've got the right skill sets in the top fold and the right label, they'll go through the work history. They'll go back to the 3 older jobs, because I do think most of the time they really do want chronological, like Ariella alluded to. The moment you start messing around with it, they feel like you're gamifying. So our situation, or our technique, gets them to see what you need them to see, that you have that experience because you've listed those skill sets, and then they'll go through the work history till they find it. And I think it's more important that you do it that way, like she said. And speaking of that, Erin's asking how to clarify hard skill sets. Erin, I am so glad you asked this. Again, we have an entire class on this because people get it wrong all the time. A soft skill set is something you cannot quantify or measure. So when you tell me you have time management skills, I can't quantify how many times you've used time management. When you tell me you're a good listener, I can't quantify that. When you say teamwork, I can't quantify that. Those are soft skills. Hard skills I can measure. So project management, you can tell me how many projects. Sales, you can tell me the sales. Business development, you can tell me how many accounts you build. Customer service, you can tell me how many customers you've done. Receptionist, you can tell me how many phone lines you've done. Budgeting and analysis, data analysis, research. These are hard skills. You can tell me and explain to me how much of that you did in some way, right? Operations management, staff training and development, the digital marketing, social media. There's ways to evaluate and do that. And again, when people send their resumes into our coaches, the coaches look at it and go, yeah, no, soft skill, get rid of that. Oh, that's a good one. And they'll help you confirm that. But our tool will help you clean up the majority of that. Because I see it all the time. People put all these soft skills. Recruiters aren't going to believe you. Their job is to decide whether or not you have those soft skills. And they decide that through the interview, through the phone screens and the interview. So that's why you don't want those on the resume, just the hard skills. We always say your resume and cover letter are like avocado toast. The resume is toast, dry, boring, factual, objective. The cover letter, avocado, storytelling, emotion, connection, feeling, flavor. See how they go together? That's really important to understand the difference. All right, Angela has a question just for you, Ariella. What do you do if you're new to LinkedIn and it's relatively empty because you are a new user?
Great question. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just map out get your resume in shape, because once that's in shape, you can essentially copy and paste within each section. You're just going to go through your profile section by section. Start with your headline. That's going to be the headline in your resume, maybe a few other hard skill sets in there. Then you're going to go down to your work history and so on. The big difference is that LinkedIn has a whole about section. And so you're going to essentially want to share the technologies in that section. You're going to want to put something that we call a personal branding statement in there, essentially a 3-sentence statement, maybe a little bit more, not a ton, not a novel, just explaining who you are, what you do, what skills you use, and what you're looking to do next. And we actually have a whole course inside Work It Daily that breaks down section by section of your LinkedIn profile and how to fill it out and what to put in there. So definitely start with your resume, get that in shape, and you can essentially copy and paste most of it right over into your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. Your advice to do the resume first, so on point. Because if you do the resume the way we teach you, it's literally a copy and paste action in LinkedIn. It really is. Erin wants to know, do you put intermediate languages on there or only fluent? You can absolutely put it intermediate. Just note that they're intermediate. You could do like French and then parentheses fluent, Spanish, intermediate. But these days, I think you can all figure out if you're multilingual, that is huge value in remote. In fact, we've seen a lot of people from retail and food service getting online remote customer service jobs because they're bilingual. So you want to have that. If you speak languages, you want that front and center. Some other things, security clearances. If you're a veteran, right? Military experience. Companies like to hire that and know about that stuff. And those are other examples of things that go in the top fold. Ariella, LH wants to know, is it okay to have an outdoor background on your LinkedIn profile?
Great question. So yes, as long as it's not super distracting, we actually do recommend skylines, especially if it's like your city or a city you want to be in. As long as it's not overly distracting, then that's totally fine. Where you want to be careful is having a bunch of text, logos, images, colors, anything that distracts someone from your profile. Because if they're looking at your background on LinkedIn and not the actual content, then we have a problem. Okay, so don't make it so interesting that they are pulled away from the actual content every time that they're looking at your profile.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, Erin wants to know about accepting random requests to connect on LinkedIn. So here's the thing. LinkedIn is not free. Let me just be clear. We all have free profiles. And so you're like, wait a minute, JT, I don't pay for anything, right? But it's not free. How do they make money? They make money off you by recruiters getting to solicit you, right? Getting to message you. They have a very expensive recruiter platform and ads. You get in-mails and ads and information in your feed now. That's how they make money. They make billions of dollars a year, okay? And plus some of their so-called premium products. They make a ton of money, all right? As far as accepting connection requests, always take a look at who's asking. Look at their profile. Make sure it's filled out. Make sure there's a picture. Make sure there's a headline. Make sure that where they work, the companies are legitimate. There's actual icons. If they look legitimate and you're comfortable, accept it. Because if they message you and you don't like what they message, you can unconnect at any time. But everybody's 6 degrees of separation away. So in my opinion, it's totally okay. Now, some people hate managing. They want a very small number of connections. If that's you, that is your right. You can say no to everyone and only connect with your immediate friends and family. That is totally okay. I am just telling you that when it comes to finding work and building connections, it limits. Even in the last couple of years, LinkedIn used to say, hey, don't connect with anybody you don't know. Now, literally, their CEO was standing up at an event saying, you should try to connect once a day with somebody you don't know. So they're trying to change all that as well. So my advice is just to make sure they're legitimate, which leads into something that I just wanted to highlight. Legit remote jobs. Legit remote jobs. We have some information on that. But the thing you need to know is that they come from reputable companies, from people with reputable emails. So if recruiters are messaging you from a Gmail account, be suspect. If they're asking you for any information like social security number, contact information, be suspect. If they're offering you a job and they've never talked to you in a Zoom call, right? And they're just saying through online, they're saying you're fit, be suspect. A real legit remote job does what? Ariella said at the beginning, usually has extra steps. There are going to be interviews. There's going to be multiple interviews. There's going to be a homework assignment. Okay, just understand the level that you put into a remote job is going to be the level of the remote job that you get back. So when you get these, hey, we can sign you up today and you can work from home today, the easier the remote job is to get, the more suspect you should be. It is that simple. It is completely proportionate. So please, folks, just know they should be legit. All the things that you went through to get an in-person interview, plus extra. That's how you make sure that you've got the remote jobs that are legit. And it's really important that you understand that. And when in doubt, seek out advice. Like we've had people come in at Work It Daily and say, these people just contacted me. We research for them and say, nope, legit. Or, hey, this is a scam. Always be careful. Be really, really careful. If they ever ask for your banking account, suspect. Okay. Things you need to think about. All right. Next question is from Isabel. Isabel says, Ariella, my job currently has me in office. However, all my work is online and I'm isolated in my office all day and all my meetings are via phone. How do I bring up that I want to do this job remotely? Oh, do you want to take this or do you want me to?
Yeah. So how about I start and you can tag on?
You got it.
So this is a great question. I think this is going to come up a lot. Because a lot more people are realizing that they don't need to be in the office to add value. And so I think what you would do here is write down all of your responsibilities and which ones you can take remotely. It sounds like most of them, but also focus on, how can you sell this idea to your boss? So what are the pros of them making you remote? So you're going to save money potentially on an office space, depending on where you're at. You can be more flexible. You can, I don't know, you want to think about all the pros in terms of you being outside the office, because that's going to be a concern of theirs. So why should we make you remote? Are we going to be able to trust you? How can we trust you when you're not in the office? Are you going to be able to get things done? Are you going to have a professional setup? You want to make sure all these questions that we already went over earlier are answered so you can address those concerns. But what I would do is just go to your boss and say, hey, I have an idea. What do you think? Let me know what you think. My job primarily consists of phone calls. I'm usually in the back corner, just doing my calls, doing my thing. I was just wondering if there were any opportunities or if this organization was considering remote opportunities in the future, because this is something that I can easily take and, work from home. And I think it can save you a lot of money. I could be more productive. Here are the reasons why. So just starting with a casual conversation in terms of what does that look like if it's an opportunity. So JT, what are your thoughts?
So everything you just said, and I have the coolest example because I just took somebody through this successfully. So what I had her do, so she's in this remote job for 2 years, or this job for 2 years. It's been in person. She wants to go remote. So the first thing we did is we said, I want you to list everything that you got hired to do in this job. So she wrote out all the tasks she was hired to do. Then in the next column, she wrote out all the new additional tasks she's taken on since she started the job. Now she hasn't been paid more, right? But she's done all these additional tasks still within her 40 hours a week, okay? And then we wrote in her commute, right? So she literally is commuting 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back every day, All right. So an hour a day she has to spend getting to and from work. So what she did is she put this all together in a form and typed it all up and asked her boss, could we meet to do a career planning session? I'd like to talk a little bit about career strategy with you, so that, I can plan. So she sat down, and this is very similar to if you were going to go in and want to earn a raise. But in this case, what did she want? She wanted to earn flexibility. She wanted to work from home. So she sat down with her boss and said, I wanted to go over where I'm at. I've been here 2 years and I was hired to do these tasks, and I love doing them, and it takes me X hours a week, but I've gotten so good at it. And she did up the hours. She said, now I do all these tasks too. And, they take me X hours a week. So this is all the additional stuff I do. And, I commute an hour each day, 30 minutes each way. I'm realizing that I could do this all remotely. And that is something I would really love the opportunity to do. So I was thinking that, because I do all this extra responsibility now and I haven't earned a raise, I was wondering how you might consider being able to let me work remote as an option. First, you would save on office space, right? Secondly, you've got me doing all this additional work. But third, instead of, asking for a full raise, I'd be willing to take just a little bit more. So you would save money. Okay. And on top of that, because I work an hour and I would get an hour of my life back, I'll add 30 minutes to my day of work. So I'll start 30 minutes earlier. I'll work 30 minutes late. So essentially what she did is she said, this is the actual salary I could be going for. This should be the additional money or promotion I could get. But I found a way to save you some money because I only want a little bit more, and I'll give you an extra 30 minutes and we'll work it differently. So she just took all the numbers and manipulated it around. And the company was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, we're going to save on office space. We're going to get 30 minutes more a day from you, 2.5 hours more a week, right? But that's her still getting 2.5 hours back of her life. And she said, I'll give you some flexibility on the money, because at the same time, they're looking at it going, oh, gee, we haven't given her a raise and she's doing all these skills. So in the back of their mind, they're like, she's trying to work with us, but if we don't work with her, she could leave us, and then we got to go find somebody new. We got to train somebody new. Remember what I said earlier? It's 130 to 40% to train somebody new and get them in there. So it was a win-win. And this is what we mean about you being a business of one and thinking about this strategy and sitting down and having a very calm, structured, factual conversation with somebody about why it makes sense for them and for you to go remote. She gave something, but she also made it very clear they're getting a lot. So if she doesn't get something, she might go look for it someplace else. She didn't have to say that, but by doing it that way, that became clear to the employer, and it was a total win-win. So, and I just love that story because I think that's what more people need to be doing if they want to work remote, So hopefully that helped. All right. Linda said, should I apply for positions that indicate they must have construction experience? I have all the other skills listed, but no construction. How do I get the construction experience if no one will give me the chance? Ariella, thoughts on that?
Yes. I mean, first of all, I would start with, connecting with people who are in that industry, right? So go and meet people who are working in that field and ask them for advice, right? So how do I get this experience? How did you start? What can I do to boost my resume for this type of opportunity? Because I feel like I can really add some great value here. Again, connect with people who work at that company or that, outfit or whatever it is, because that's going to help you show that you're trying to put in the work, you're putting in the effort, you're trying to figure out how you can get the knowledge, and that can definitely help you fill in the gaps. But, when in doubt, if you have all the skills except for one, or you don't have so much experience in one industry, fall back on the connection to the organization and the passion for what you do and the supporting skills that you have, because you might lack in one area, but you could be amazing in everything else. And so you can make up for what you lack with that enthusiasm for the organization and for what you do, that intrinsic motivation, and you can learn the rest. So that's something you can do in order to market yourself for those opportunities.
Yeah, time and again, tell a killer story in the disruptive cover letter about why you're obsessed with the construction industry, and get that story in the hands of as many people as you can at the company that works there. They'll find you a home. It happens all the time, because they want to hire somebody for the passion. LH says, should you quantify areas where you save the company money or increase revenue? Heck yeah. See, that's what a bullet point should be. Don't tell me how you did the job. Tell me what you got done. Save the company $20,000 by streamlining these 4 processes. Increase revenues by 50% by doing these 4 steps, whatever. Simplify it. Simple numbers, 1 to 2 sentence long, make all the difference. Question here is, I don't have a current professional picture. Is it okay to use one that is a couple years long, is old, as long as it's not drastic? Please don't. Do I need to invest in headshots? The quick answer there is no. Use your smartphone. Find a neutral backdrop, right? Get some bright light in front of you. Put on a nice outfit and have somebody grab portrait mode or your phone, because these phones are great quality, and take about 100 pictures of you. And somewhere in there will be one that you can use as a headshot. Not even kidding. Professional headshots are not required anymore, but you do need a current one. You absolutely need a current one. All right, Ariella, Angela wants to know, for LinkedIn, prior work histories with a lot of mom and pop places, how do I make sure it displays as legitimate?
So this will happen, sometimes the company doesn't have a logo. Sometimes they don't even have a LinkedIn profile. That's okay. Because as long as they can Google the name, if it shows up online, maybe even have a contact information, like a number or address, something, if they're really, not online, which is probably not realistic at this point. But they don't have to have the logo. They don't have to have a LinkedIn profile or company page, I should say. As long as they can do some research, if they need to go and learn about that organization, then that's fine. And also, if they ask you, you can just say, listen, it's a mom and pop place. They're not really with it and they're not really online, but here's the phone number if you want to make sure that they're legitimate.
Absolutely. What do we do with the time, 6 of the past 10 years, where we were freelancers on a resume? So the really important thing to do there, and you'll learn in our program, is that you lead with the job title and you put that it was freelancer contractor after the fact. So it's more important that they understand the type of work you did, not necessarily that it was full-time or contract work. It's so important that you figure that piece out. They'll see the job titles and the career progression, and then they can see it's contract work. The mistake people make is they put contractor, contractor, contractor. Well, that's screaming that you're contractor. I want to hear what you did as a contractor, and that will de-emphasize that fact. All right, Ariella, David says, for remote work, is it okay to use one's personal computer, or is it better to get an additional computer for use for the remote job?
So it really depends on the organization. Some companies will buy you a computer, you use that computer. Some companies will give you a work from home package, essentially, where you have enough, a stipend essentially to get your own materials. And there are some that will, just say, hey, use your own computer and we'll pay for your internet. It really depends on what the setup is, but obviously, ideally, if you can separate your personal computer with, your work computer, that would be great. But sometimes that's just not the case.
Yeah, and I would ask, as part of the negotiation process, will they be supplying the materials, or can they supply the materials? A lot of times they do these days, and they want you on one that's separate because they actually don't want you using it for personal use.
Right.
So you'll have a separate one as well. So you'll get that when you get the job offer. You'll hear a lot more about that as well. Also, that can factor in what you ask for in salary, because if they tell you, no, you're going to use all your own stuff, well, guess what? Now you have a valid reason to ask for more money. Awesome. All right, team. I can't believe it. Where did an hour and a half plus go? You've been amazing. So hopefully you enjoyed today's session. Right now, what I'd love to see is, what was your biggest aha moment in the second part of the section? What really drove home to you that's different about remote work? What did you learn today? What was your favorite part? Whatever it is, we want to see it in the comments. We always love to get your feedback. A reminder, as soon as the recording is done, you'll get an email that'll go out. You can go back and watch the recording as much as you want for 7 days, and then it goes down. It'll actually be inside Work It Daily. So our members get to watch it whenever they want. That's one of the upsides of our platform. So it'll be in there for as long as they need it. But for you, it's for 7 days. You have 24 hours to use the discount code to get your $5 that you spent on the ticket off one of our discounted rates. And we have monthly and we have annual. And again, I would strongly encourage you, check out the annual, because the savings are amazing. And we want you as part of the family. You'll be able to get in there, see what it's about, be part of the community. You hear this all the time on social media. You're the product of the people you spend the most time with. Well, what I've found in 20 years of career coaching is that we don't nearly surround ourselves enough with the right people to get our careers where we want them. And a lot of times we don't have access to those. Our family and our friends aren't always the right people. And candidly, they're not career coaches. They're not trained. And they're also a very subjective relationship with you. Right? They're not your coaches, and they shouldn't be. And so you should be surrounded by people with like-minded goals, same work ethic as you, who want to get results. And that's what we built. We built a career club online. We're the only one like it. I'm so proud of it. Our teammates and I have worked really hard on this. And there's a reason that it's growing pretty fast, because it's fun and you learn a ton. And every single day that you work it daily, you get smarter, you get stronger, you get better, and you get more control over your career. Okay, so we loved being here with you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. I hope you learned a lot. And we really, really want you to join our family. I know people get wigged out when they hear that. So join our club. If you don't like family, join our club, because we would love you to be a part of it. And with that, I'm going to leave Ariella to close us out.
Awesome. Well, yes, thank you so much for choosing to be here today. I know it's a lot of information, but thankfully you can go back, watch the recording, and soak it up for 7 more days if you're an active member, obviously, anytime you want. So definitely hope this was helpful. Thanks again, and we hope to see you inside Work It Daily.
Bye, team.
Bye.